this occasion with a quote by Sherry Mandel. Resilient is not about overcoming, but becoming. I repeat, resilient is not about overcoming, but becoming. A warm good afternoon to everyone who has joined us this afternoon in both physical and virtual platforms. We are really glad to get connected with you all in some way or the other. We, as a MCC SWD family, welcome you all to the second day of our National Online Study Conference on Building Resilient Communities, Bureco 2021, sponsored by National Bank for Agriculture and Rural Development, NABARD, and World Vision India. Today, we have so many enlightening and exciting sessions like yesterday. And before diving into it, we have to remember and acknowledge a very special person. We believe that prayer is the backbone of our department, and God Almighty is the one who helps us to be resilient when things get tough and situation becomes unpredictable. So I request you all to stand up for the prayer song. Thank you. You can sit down. Gender plays a major role and has a great influence on the individual's resilient levels. The first session for today's agenda is going to be on gender resilience. For this session, we have two skillful personalities who has been working in this field for more than 1.5 decades. The first speaker for today is Dr. Ronald H. Das, who is a post-secondary educator and researcher in the field of nonprofit management, higher education, and law and social work. He has 15 years of experience in development and education sectors. Dr. Ronald received MA and PhD degrees from Tata Institute of Social Sciences, Mumbai. Since 2013, Dr. Ronald is working as assistant professor in College of Social Work Autonomous, Nirmala Niketan, Mumbai. We welcome you, sir. The second speaker for this session is Dr. Lavanya, who is a researcher in the field of mental health, gender, and disaster management. Dr. Lavanya has 15 years of experience in this field. Since 2018, she is working as senior manager in Habitat for Humanity, Mumbai. Dr. Lavanya received MSW degree from Madras School of Social Work, University of Madras, and PhD from Tata Institute of Social Sciences, Mumbai. We welcome you, ma'am. Participants can post their questions on Q&A box if you are on Zoom platform, and you can use comment section if you're on YouTube. Over to Dr. Ronald and Dr. Lavanya. Thank you.
Thank you, team. Shalin, you will be sharing my PowerPoint, right?
Yes, sir. We will be sharing.
Thank you. Okay, guys. So thank you so much, Madras Christian College, Department of Social Work, for providing us an opportunity to interact with all of you. I'm Dr. Ronald, and my colleague is Dr. Lavanya. I'll be sharing this presentation. She will not be able to join today, so please excuse her. So the topic for our discussion is going to be on gender and resilience, and we are going to discuss more on a phenomenological analysis of elderly women's health experience, and then we will see how resilient were they, and how do they understand about resilience, and so on and so forth. Okay, so let's move on. Okay, so what is resilience? So resilience is the process of negotiating and adapting to a stressful environment or situation. It also refers to certain skill sets, assets, and resources individuals have in their life to facilitate or to kind of adapt to the situation. And the most important thing is to bounce back from adversity. In social work, we have the National Association of Social Workers who advocate that resilience is the ability to come out of stress and develop the capacity to use the environmental resources and lead a satisfying life, right? So that is what resilience is. In short, you can say that resilience is nothing but the ability to bounce back in the event of an adversity. Now let's move on to find the perspectives on resilience. There are a couple of perspectives on resilience. I want to club it all together into two different approaches. The first approach is more a genetic, biological, social environment, and trait-based approach. So in this approach, we see individuals, certain individuals as endowed naturally with an ability to bounce back, and this is normally considered as a genetic trait to come back in life. Say, for example, the whites have the genetic traits to come back, or such kind of a assumption is made. Whereas we are focusing more on the social learning perspective, which believes that resilience can be learned and developed by anyone. And here in this context, we are emphasizing a particular approach to understand the social learning perspective. Next slide, please. So the framework which I'm going to use and I'm going to discuss here is called the learned optimism framework of Seligman. So Seligman says that there are people who find it difficult to bounce back in life due to three interconnected emotional states: personalization, pervasiveness, and permanence. Personalization is a destruction of some kind where we kind of internalize our problems and take it very, very personally, and we hold ourselves accountable for things which we may not have done also. So we unnecessarily blame ourselves for certain things, and that makes us very hard to bounce back. Pervasiveness is another cognitive assumption, which we feel that we assume that all the negative situations which are spread in our life is not just spread in one domain, but on across all domain. For example, I have a I have a bad situation at work. I have a bad situation at family. So bad situation is pervasive. It's all around. That's the kind of feeling people have. Third is permanence. There are people who believe that whatever bad experience which has happened in my life will last forever, will never change. Okay, so that's not a one-time event. So this is what people think about. So these three types of cognitive states can be changed when we look at life in an impersonal, specific, and impermanent stance. Here, when we talk about all these things, we are talking about the power of optimism. So learned optimism is something opposite to learned helplessness. So learned optimism is what which helps us to adapt positively and become more resilient and bounce back in our life challenges. Now let's look at the, the relevance of gender when it comes to resilience. Next slide, please. So gender, what is gender? Gender refers to different social roles we play in our life as women, men, people of third gender. So these are roles which are learned, and probably these are things which can change over time also. However, gender is influenced by factors such as culture, environment, education, etc. The feminist theories believe that uh, gender is a construct made by patriarchal, setups, which is to subjugate women and make them powerless, feminine, or obedient people. However, when it comes to resilience, there is this fundamental question: who is more resilient than the other? Are male more resilient than female? I'm not going to even encourage such kind of a question, because the real question should be who is more subjugated than the other. And we all know the answer, that women are more subjugated than men. Several studies have also said that when women try to seek health services or education setups, they are treated very differently from how their male colleagues are treated. Researchers even argue that uh, even with ill health, women generally uh, retain far more resilience than men. So this is a very interesting context in which we have done some research studies, which I would like to share with you. So the objective of the study is to understand the resilience of elder women with respect to how do they overcome physical health and psychological distress. This study is done by my colleague Lavanya. She did the study not from a quantitative kind of an understanding, but from a phenomenological research approach, which kind of contributes to deeper understanding of the lived experience of our research participants. Accordingly, she had conducted research with 20 women, and she compiled the naive description of lived experience of these women living in Chennai, in different parts of Chennai, actually. And these data is then kind of structured through a reflective analysis and interpretation of the events and how the women overcome certain life situations. Now, I would like to present four case studies in very, very quick time. Uh, Next slide, please. So, Manjula is a caregiver who lives with she's around 60 years old, and she is a caregiver for an 85-year-old person. So, so when she took care of the older man, one day he fell down, and she realized that she could not lift him up, because she found that she had a slip disorder. This simple situation in her life triggered some learning points for her. She could learn from another person's experience, and from then on, she started to visit her doctor regularly, and she could preempt a future challenge and kind of coped with that situation. Here, what we are looking at is a certain ability or assert of the older women to kind of preempt certain things which could come in the future. Then we can, if you look at the case of Karpakama, she's a worker in a like a off attender in a hospital. So she got a job when she was 60 years old. She's doing a contractual job in a healthcare setup. Her family members do not support her. So one day she fell ill, and nobody was there to take care of her. She realized that the only way to manage this situation is to be friendly with the nurses around and utilize a peer and collegial support. So she began to talk to the nurses and engage with them. She used a social capital, and she got their support system through which she came out of the situation. Here we talk about the certain assert or capacity of the women to kind of use her peer or collegial support to kind of come out of a challenging situation. Then, when you look at the case of Kasturi, she had a very bad health issue. She was admitted in the hospital. When she came out, the first thing she did was to take a health insurance for her, and she kind of used her jewels to pawn during any other distress. So here, what we are talking about, utilizing the family support systems, like the assert and resources which she has, and also kind of working on a future strategy which will help her to save herself. The last case is that of Rani. She lives in an old age home as an inmate. She's passionate about cooking because she doesn't have much to do at the old age home. She herself is a very highly motivated person. So, how does she manage her life? She has several illnesses. The only thing which makes her moving is her ability to use her skills quite meaningfully and have a peaceful mindset. So from all this four case study, you must have realized very simple things. You must have also thought like, is these normal cases of resilience? So the most important thing for you to note is this, that resilience is not a product which you get at the end of the day. It's a process. See, in the life of Manjula, her resilience is all about preempting a situation and kind of being ready for facing a situation. In the face of Karpakamma, when you face a reality, you kind of develop some social systems to take care of yourself. In the case of Kasturi, it's again a learning which she got from a previous experience, which you use to kind of overcome your situation. You also utilize the family support systems for it. In case of Rani, it's about being highly motivated in yourself so that in the future you engage in a meaningful activity. So these are ways in which older women, cope with the situation. Next slide, please. So, what is the interpretation we get from the narratives? It's clear that resilience is not a product, as I said. It's more a process. Probably in everyday life, women face several adverse life situations, and as Windley rightly points out, it's their ability to negotiate, adapt, and take the normal stress as easily as it is. We could see the research participants being impersonal about situations. They were specific and they were taking an impermanent stance, which were helpful for them to overcome the challenges. Most of the elderly women whom we interacted were able to face life with more optimism in the face of adversity, and thereby becoming more resilient and bounce back from life's challenges. Another interesting piece in this is the women's ability to use her social capital, be it family, be it community, or even workplace, to kind of negotiate and be able to overcome the situations. Next slide, please. So, from this discussion, I think it's clear to us that it's not just traits, but resilience is more than that. Resilience is social learning. It's about networking and a learning which this elderly women receive from previous life experiences in the course of the time. Silgman points out in his seminal work that, as we have discussed, it's the belief system that clearly creates the change. If you continuously hold positive feelings, you will have positive outcomes. Same kind of approach is used by Albert Ellis in his approach called the ABC technique, where he kind of talks about it. There are certain activating events which happen in our life, and there is this belief system which kind of help us to see the adversity in the way we want to see. So if we see it in a positive light, we are going to have a positive consequences. If you're going to see in a negative lens, your consequences are going to be in a negative sense. Seligman added two more aspects, which is called the D and the E, which is disputation and energization. Disputation is generally a counter evidence which you prepare for a negative belief. I know that we cannot be all the time positive in life. There would be negative feelings because we are human beings. Our belief system may also be challenged by several negativity which comes in the way. But there is this inherent ability to dispute negative beliefs. So if you use that counter evidence to negate your negative belief, you will be able to move on, and then you will be able to use the evidence for energizing yourself to celebrate the positive feeling and feel a sense of accomplishment. I believe that the ABCDE model can be used by social workers with clients who feel dejected due to several imminent crises and prolonged health crises in their lives. Uh, you can use the learned optimism model to train people and help them overcome several situations. I hope the presentation was useful to you, and we can have some question answers down the line. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir, for helping us to understand the essence of gender resilience with so many relevant examples. So there's one question. So you spoke so much about the women resilience, especially the elder women. So is there any connection between the life expectancy and the resilience? Because when we see in India, the life expectancy of the women is comparatively so high when comparing to men. So is there any connection between the life expectancy and the resilience nature?
So, more than life expectancy, what I believe is the life experience. The ability to learn from experience determines the resilience of the person. Life expectancy can be higher for women in certain contexts, but more than that, I believe the ability of the women to use their experience to preempt situations, to kind of use the social capital. So all these things are able to help them, overcome difficult situations.
Thank you, sir. So once again, we thank you for accepting our invitation. Any questions from the audience or from the participants? Sir, so we have another question. What is the connection between the spirituality and learned optimism? Is there any connectivity between the spirituality and the learned optimism?
Yes, that there is a connection definitely. And here, when we say spirituality, I believe we differentiate religion from spiritual, attributes. So being spiritual definitely will help you become more agile and more, positive in your life. Yes, I agree with the audience who have rightly pointed out the connection between being spiritual and being resilient, as they are closely connected.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions from the audience? Okay, thank you, sir. So once again, we thank you for accepting our invitation and thank you for being a part of our conference, sir.
Thank you so much. All the best for you guys.
Thank you, sir. So we'll move on to the next session. A child is an uncut diamond. I repeat, a child is an uncut diamond. The second session for the day is on resilience among children. For this session, we have a very special person from the World Vision India, the organization which works very closely with children. We have Mr. David Chokalingam in our midst, who is a senior manager or organizational development and capacity building, people and culture World Vision India. Mr. David is also a research scholar at the Department of Population Studies, Annamalai University. He worked for 5 years with Council on National Service, also worked in census data analysis and content development. He worked for 2 years in international humanitarian emergency response, specifically in tsunami response and rehabilitation. Mr. David also worked as information coordinator at Andaman Nicobar Islands, World Vision India. He has 7 years of experience in community development at Kanjipuram district and Pudukkottai district, World Vision India. Over to you, sir. David Chokalingam, sir, are you there?
Thank you for the access on the on this wonderful event. Can I also share my screen and share my video? Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you're audible. You can share it, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you guys for this wonderful time that I could share about the resilience of the children. Let me share my screen and my just a moment for yeah, great. Okay. Today's children are tomorrow's nation, or the caliber for the nation tomorrow. So I just want to take you through a study that World Vision has conducted recently, recently in the sense during the COVID lockdown. And I'm going to take you through how child resilience or resilience among children is very critical and imperative for our nation, especially for the psychosocial well-being of children. As we have already heard, resilience is not a product but a continuous process, and the process should start early in their life so that we will the children will be able to produce their results or be able to cope up and be resilient as they move on with their life never ending challenges. I thank the opportunity given. Let me start this with a simple quote, and this is one of the quote that in 2020 one of our women staff was interacting with another girl in one of our communities. Is the context is the lockdown, and this staff asked like, well, how are you and what's happening and how are you feeling? And this child, she's around 14 years of age, this girl told our staff, ma'am, I'm so scared to go to this particular place. And you might be wondering, it could be a school. If you can fill in the blank, you might have many options. But you will be wondering and you'll be taken aback if this is going to be the answer. And this is exactly she said, ma'am, I'm so scared to go to toilet. For adolescent girl to go to toilet on a daily basis, if it is so scaring, how will the child come out of it? And this child is hailing from one of the slums from Mumbai, Dharavi. And I happened to be there in 2019. And the small hole that is there, as you could see, some pair of shoes, and that is exactly the doorway. And doorway is not upright. The doorway is like a hole. You to reach the house, we need to actually climb the stairs, and then once the door is closed, that becomes a bed for two of them to sleep. And the picture above is the entire house. It's more or less like 120 square feet, 10 into 10 or 10 into 12 feet. And that is the place for a father, for a mother, for a girl and a boy. So if you could look at the context of how they have been locked up in that particular place for more than 60 days, there's no way that they can ever access the toilet. And even if they go to the toilet, they are so intimidated, number one, and they are so scared because they need to touch the latches, touch the knobs, touch the taps that has been touched by many. And the news, there are a lot of cases that are increasing in the area of Dharavi. So this is just an example of how children felt during the time of lockdown, and what are some of the ways that they have found out to come out of it. Okay, and I'm going to present a study. This is more of a descriptive or a formulative study, and it's not a study to compare. Rather, it's a study, it's a status study, where the sampling method is more a mixed method, where we used a non-probability convenient sampling, and also the study period is between 5th May and the report was published somewhere close to 30th of May 2020. And this is part of a bigger project that we had, bigger study that we had, and this particular study is concentrating only on children up to the age of 10 to 18 who are considered for this study, and consent was taken from the parents, and it was through a telephonic call where first the call reached the parents, and after the parents' consent, the children were interviewed. And also, the sample size of this particular study is close to 5,585, 5,595, and the sampling tool that we had is just an open schedule with some connotations on the programs that we have already conducted, and also as we have done testing of the tool, we have also included some of the important ingredients or important areas, or especially on psychosocial, educational, protection related issues into the study. As I get into the study, these are the four major stress, or the four major reasons for stress that children had ever helped us to understand. Okay, as you have heard earlier, emotional resilience is the ability to adapt a stressful situation and cope with life's ups and downs. And the word resilient comes from the Latin word resilio, which meaning to bounce back. And uh, it has been told to us many times as we listened to the earlier presentation. So the major areas of stress, as we have seen here, is a restriction on physical movement, bow down and lockdown, and also the major reason is disturbance of routine, especially among children, which includes interruption of education, and also domestic violence, increasing domestic violence and protection issues, and also the weak parenting skills that the parents had. As you all know, as the lockdown was very severe and there was strict lockdown in India, Hindu had given a very good title, and it had come up with this line saying, the child line is getting lakhs and lakhs of calls. For example, the secondary review data says that between March 20 to 31 of 2020, the child line number, that is 1098, which is the India's distress helpline for children, reported that it received more than 92,000 calls, and 30% out of those calls are from children seeking protection from abuse and violence. So this is the context. This is exactly how children felt: the need for protection, the need to be protected from abuse and violence. And also, it we all know that the impact of lockdown is not very easy for a rural setup or an urban setup. So this particular study is covers different contexts, different geography, different social and political systems. So for example, this study covers 61 percentage of rural population and 30 percentage of urban population, and then two semi-urban population and seven tribal location. And this is collected from 118 districts or 118 locations all over India except for Kashmir. Okay, so getting into the study, this is how children felt when they were locked down. Children who express reasons for not being happy or stressed during lockdown is because they have no friends, of 66%, and those who can't go outside and restriction, 61%, and boredom, they are so bored they don't know what to do, 57%, and there's no time for education, interruption of education. They wanted to score well, they were preparing themselves really well, but then there's a sudden lockdown reported by 47%. And because of lockdown in rural areas, they were given a lot of workload, especially from rural and tribal settings. Children were made to work from home for the revenue of the family. So there was increasing household work, as well as there are many hands that were again staying to do the work of the family. and others are punishment by 5.4%, and there are other small little areas that sprang up during the study. So this is exactly how the stress level or the inputs for stress is measured. So this is exactly how children felt. And obviously, children underwent increased levels of physical and emotional abuse during the lockdown period. And it was observed that the fellowship is being formed with everyone taking care of their each other at home. There are good examples where the quality family time has increased in terms of family coming together, talking, constructive conversations between parents and children has increased. On the other hand, out of 330 girls, 317 girls from the child survey expressed that they feel unsafe and insecure at home. And reasons for stress among children also is because of the increased workload, and some of the reasons mentioned by the children are not able to relate and speak with their friends, not able to go outside. Okay, so what else? What are the other facets of this stress? Why is this mounting stress during this lockdown? One another area that we found during this interview process with the the parents brought us the financial insecurity and inability to in the family, and it aggravated, and they don't know how to control the changing behaviors of children, which caused much disruption among the families. Okay, total of 19.5% of children reported that they were called names, threatened verbally, yelled and shouted, and around 10% of the children admitted that physical punishment was used as a means to correct them or discipline them. Parents have no clue how to spend time with the children. They don't know how to strike a conversation or to extend the conversation, but they were all into that same house, locked down. They were not able to move out. So in this scenario, what what helped them, or how resilient were they, and how what helped them to come out? And even before we get into the study, we had earlier conversation with the children, and one of the things that came up very powerfully were the life skills that they were using. So we thought we should measure this life skill and how it works. As you all know, life skill laid out by WHO is intended to increase psychosocial competence to deal effectively with the demands and the challenges of everyday life. As you have heard earlier in the earlier presentation, that it's about learned optimism, it's about learning, and these are the 10 skills that WHO is prescribing. And World Vision in the last 5 years, in the last 7 years, it developed these life skill into small different activities where it trains children, trains facilitator as well as trains children on these. They come together in a small platform after the school. They come together as children's group where this life skills are taught to them. They come together and then they talk about life problem, for example decision making, and there'll be 4 5 small activities for them. So there'll be a facilitator, community facilitator, who will facilitate that for the children, and the children learn out of the 30 or 60 minutes time. So this has been there, and we have been training more than 1,70,000 children around in all our projects in Pan India presence. Okay, with this the context, we thought how whether this life skill is actually helping them, and 65.6% said LSET, the life skills laid out by WHO, is actually helping them to learn skills that help them to bounce back very easily and very perfectly. And also, the children reported using life skills for coping during lockdown is 85 percentage. What does it mean? Out of the 100 people, 66 of them said we have been trained, and we call those who are trained, and we have taken disaggregated information, and then we looked into it, and they say 85% of them say that it has been of such use for them to be resilient, for them to cope up. And we asked them, so what are some of the skills that actually helped you during lockdown? And these are some of the skills that they told us. Self-awareness being the highest. Self-awareness meaning developing self-awareness in children help recognize their value and keep their body, mind, and soul from being deterred from circumstances. And children with self-awareness recognize themselves of their character, their uniqueness, their abilities, and their weakness also. So this has taken 34 percentage. 34 percentage of children told us, okay, self-awareness is exactly what helped really well for us to cope up. And then module on coping with stress, how to cope up. Coping with stress enables children to recognize the source of stress, understand the reality, and respond to the negative pressures, thereby not succumb to them, rather fight with positivity. And then creative thinking. There are many children who came up with a lot of creative ideas, and we also got a lot of puppet shows, in the sense like children will paint themselves, take a video from their parents' cell phones, and they started messaging on how to wash their hands or how to keep themselves not to move around, how to behave, and how to have the social distancing or the physical distancing to others. So there are a lot of ways, and children have picked up a lot of waste materials lying there in their houses, started producing a lot of craft materials. So that is how
Excuse
the
me,
create.
sir.
Yes, sir.
Sorry for interrupting, sir. So we are running short of time. Can we make it fast?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you, sir.
So these are the creative thinking, as well as the interpersonal relationship took 10%, obviously problem solving 6%, decision making. So this is the construct, and this is exactly children use life skills to come out of their stress. And I'm going to read some of the quotes, and I'm going to close this with some recommendation. Uh, One child said from Bangalore, and I understand better about the present situation and not demanding things with my parents. I accept whatever my parents provide with gratitude. So this this particular word gratitude is the important area that we have worked on. We wanted them to be thankful for all that they have and all that they have as a family. So that is coming out. Also about, if you could read the Barampanki, uh, I have managed my negative thoughts, and I came because of thoughts that came out because of lockdown, thinking about the positive things. As we all know, the learning optimism is coming out very clearly. And coming down to this, to keep, as whenever I feel stressed, I have engaged in doing creative products from Gurgaon. And also they have decided not to waste food. They have understood the values of life during the lockdown, and it all has connection with the life skills that they have been taught. And that which is in the center is the most important for me. This one boy, 12 years old, from Sambalpur, he said, I gave 2 masks to my friend, which means I have 2 masks, and I am going to give it to my friend so that they can also go visit with that protection. And I'm not going to have that all to myself. That is about more of empathy and sharing. So these are some of the recommendations that we have. Children has to be trained obviously on life skills, so that consistency is met, so that they are becoming good citizens. And also we need to develop peer-to-peer learning methods so that children and adolescents can learn how to reduce stress. And also there is a need for counseling services for children among parents, and they have to be made accessible for communities, especially for rural and tribal communities. We have good connections in the semi-urban and urban settings, but not in the rural and tribal settings. And finally, and most importantly, parents and caregivers have to be trained in parenting skills. That should include basic adolescent psychology to identify signs and symptoms of stress, anxiety, apathy, and depression, and administer behavior approaches that would eliminate unhealthy behaviors. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir, for presenting your research and explaining us the importance of life skill education. I just want to add one more thing. So in my UG, so when I was doing internship in World Vision, I went to so many schools in slum areas of Chennai, and we taught the life skill education for so many children, and the feedback was really good. So it took me back to those days, and thank you so much for explaining us all those things. Any question from the audience side? We have one question here.
Um, Good afternoon, sir. It was such an amazing and informative session, firstly. So while presenting the slide where we projected, I mean, you projected the reasons, the major reasons that made children unhappy during the lockdown, I I saw that child sexual abuse was not present in that. Maybe in others it might have been included, but that was one thing that I was thinking of as World Vision works in this area. So I thought you might know cases because there were a lot of cases during the pandemic, right? So I just want to know about that. What was, the level or the intensity of child sexual abuse during those times?
Very good. That's a very good observation. The others, which is mentioned as 7.7, is inclusive of those protection and violent household issues. So there are also instances where uh, child protection units formed in the community were able to trace and be able to report and able to stop 15 child marriages. To be very precise, 7 child marriages in Andhra Pradesh. So child protection issues are always addressed, and that is there. But then what we have is also very strong child protection units in the community. Child protection units and uh, yeah, child protection actions are very strong, and we have built that infrastructure. So any child who is going through such situation will call up either the child protection number 1098, or else they have this child protection unit contacts. So once they call that, within 15 minutes of time they have their they have the help, and it is taken up very seriously. And you also know about the POSCO and all others, and there are areas that we have very strong systems built for child protection. So that is how it is taken care of, and that comes under the other 7.7%.
Thank you, sir. So once again, we thank you for accepting our invitation, and thank you for enlightening us more on the life skill education, which will help children to become more resilient. Thank you, sir. We'll
Thank
move
you.
on to the next session of the day. So this session is all about psychosocial resilience. For this session, we have a very special person in our midst, Dr. Bornali Das, who is working as a senior lecturer of psychiatric social work in the Department of Psychiatry at Guwahati Medical College and Hospital from 2002 till now. Dr. Bornali Das has completed her MA Social Work in Medical and Psychiatric Social Work at Tata Institute of Social Sciences, Mumbai. She has also done her MPhil in Psychiatric Social Work at NIMHANS, Bangalore, and her PhD in Psychiatric Social Work at Srimanta Sankradeva University of Social Sciences. She has been an NGO advisor to Assam State's AIDS Control Society and a psychosocial counselor and public relations officer in MGM Hospital, Navy, Mumbai. Her area of special interest are psychosocial care in clinical management, community mental health, development of mental health education aids, and coordinating with international, national level NGOs and CSR initiatives for collaborating work in mental health. We are really glad to have you in our midst, ma'am. Over to you, ma'am.
A very good afternoon. Um, it has been actually, I have come in lieu of one of my friend who is supposed to give this talk, Dr. Kim Naihat YP. And it is indeed a pleasure for me to share about resilience on psychosocial area, because this is something which I have been working for since some time. And also I have a paper which was on autism and their family resilience scale, which I have used while doing the study. But today, not discussing on that area, but I'll be speaking on the psychosocial aspect, for which there are a few slides that I would like to bring it forward. Uh, can I share? Is the sharing option
Yes,
here?
ma'am, you can share it, ma'am.
Yeah. And how much time do I have? 15
Ma'am,
minutes?
you can take till 4 p.m., ma'am. 4 5.
Okay.
You can take till 4 5.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. So to start with this, as you know, It would have been more nice if it would have been interactive, but however, this is the new digital era way of education as well as way of learning and sharing. So at least we have some platform is instead of having no platform if it was 100 years back. So it's a digital resilience, if you have to say it in that way. So what do we understand from resilience? I'm sure that about this from the morning, there has been many sessions on resilience. And as we know, resilience is defined as the ability to spring back or to bounce back, from any kind of adversity that a person is facing from. So, meaning to say that when there is misfortune, adversities, or frustrations of life, because that is part and parcel of anybody's life, and it is yet we need to find, we need to go ahead with finding with this scenario. So, this is the Webster's Dictionary meaning. I'll go ahead. So if we see this slide, it speaks about the bio, psycho, and social aspect of the model of health. So for every person, is primarily when we talk about mental health, and as we talk about physical health, and we also know that mental health is very much important along with physical health. So biopsychosocial means that biological, which means the genetically, whichever is predisposed in our body, as we get it from the epigenetics of or the biomarkers when we are born. The physical health, what we are talking about here. And we are also invariably with a certain amount of developmental abilities, which we call it as IQ or intelligent quotient, meaning to say that we are at the time of birth, we come with certain as a package as a child, and which goes into the when we meet with the environment, meet with various persons, then we try developing into the psychological, which is could be a self-esteem, could be the coping skills, could be the mindset. All this comes under the psychological, and the social aspect, that is the how the family, the environment, the school, or the college from where we are rolling in our times once from time to time. So this is the three aspects that we have to interact with one another. And this part, the middle part of it, if we see, is called as mental health or well-being. So basically, because to keep our sanctity, to keep our mental health, to keep our well-being, we need to interact with this biopsychosocial model is so very important in our life. So it gets integrated from two components. One is that adjustment phase and the other is the adaptation phase. Meaning to say that when a person comes to this world, the child adapts, adjusts to a new scenario with whichever family he has come in or she has come in. That is the adjustment. And slowly that goes into a continuum procedure, which is called as adaptation phase. So these are the two components which is being seen in resilience, and more so because resilience, when it was primarily spoken in 1973 in some of the work related to psychiatry, then it was Garmensri. In 1973, he wrote a paper. That time it was more like a trait. Slowly, it was said that it is a big process. And when we talk about resilience, it is about the various aspects of resilience that we talk about, maybe the spiritual resilience or social resilience or health resilience, the psychological resilience, social support as a resilience. So there are so many aspects of resilience as it has come over the time. As you know, like yeah, the words get coined, but when the words get coined, after some time we understand the importance of it. Like for example, recently I have heard that in Japan, loneliness minister has been, given certain responsibility. There is a minister for loneliness, Meaning to say, if a particular word which was coined becomes important in an interactive pattern in the environment, then it becomes very, very important that that gets a precedence um, in our lives. So and so is resilience is one of the word which I feel that it came as a trait, and later on it became a big subject. And yes, it is now a big subject because we look into it from various dimensions. So some of the risk factors which is with the resilience, like as a child, when a child interacts with the world, there could be anxiety, like a child or a adolescent or a student in a college who is living in an university or adjusting or adapting to a new situation. There are certain risks which comes along in the resilience, like the anxiety about whether I can make my future, whether I can make it, or would I be a failure. Complexities in the relationship that many of us might be going through, failure or with the loved ones, difficulty in making friends, adjustment, or with the roommates, adjustment that a person is making whenever he newly comes into the room. There could be also gross things like violence. Sometimes there could be gross things like alienation. A person in a especially in a college setting, it is seen that some of the students get alienated from the group due to something or the other, or maybe the person might have different culture, different background, values, or traditional expectations, and moreover the academic culture of that college or the university. There could be issues of substance use, abuse, and fear and anxiety in navigating the world, that I have to, now as soon as they come out from the house and they become launching adults, much of them, those who come out from the house in the college level, they start living of their own. Lot of decisions have to be taken by themselves. So in that case, it also becomes difficult to navigate the world alone, and whether I'm doing the right kind of thing or not. So these questions are always there. So this could be some of the risk factors that a person may encounter. So then there are seven theory of resilience, like the insight. Each individual has his own way of understanding of himself, as well as his understanding with the outside world. Independence, distancing emotionally and physically from the sources of trouble in one's life. Relationship, making fulfilling connections to the other person. So these are certain expectations that we have, and we try to abide by this expectation. And if we are able to abide by it, then it is a good resilience. And if we are not able to abide by it, then it can be called as that this person is having challenges in resilience. Like the initiative, taking charge of the problems. May not be that every individual are good enough in taking charge of their own problems, then they would need support. They would need persons around them, friends or family, or in the significant person in his or her life. Then there is creativity, using imagination and expressing oneself in an art form. Humor. Humor plays a very important thing in a person's life. So, like, trying to finding out certain sublimating phase, or rather we call it as a defense mechanism. There are positive defense mechanism, as you know, there are immature defense mechanism. So if a person is able to take certain mature defense mechanism like intellectualization or sublimation, so humor is also one of the defense mechanism which is part of the resilience in today's life. So making trying to deal with the situation which is quite adverse in or socially disadvantaged, but at that point of time the person is able to handle well by intellectualizing it or sublimating it or distracting into certain else thing which could be a positive for that person. And later on, when he thinks as an experience, he thinks that, okay, at that point of time I did a good thing by doing this. Then morality, acting on the basis of informed conscience. This could be also spiritual in nature. So these are the 7 resilience theory which are important in one's life in a behavioral manner. So when we see this, Wolin is one of the proponent of behavioral resilience, because I have been asked to speak on 2 issues. One is behavioral resilience and other one is family. So in one of the studies which I have found, that he has spoken about few things which are very important, which I have covered earlier slide. One is insight, other one is independence, relationships, initiatives, humor, creativity, and morality. So when we see at different age, when we encounter with this world or as we are growing up, we have we see the resilience in different aspects. Each resiliency develops in stages. The inside ring represents the childhood or moves outward to adolescence and adulthood. So when you see self is in the center, then as a child, he will understand the world in a different connotation than when you go into adulthood. In childhood, the brain is in a formative stage, as we all know, and we are still learning about the concepts of the world, concept of using the words. So judging, sensing, straying, connecting, exploring, playing, these are the simple things, and these are the very, very important tools as a child that he or she must do or he might have in their personal life. Then going to the adolescence, in this part of life, that is between 12 to maybe 19, behaviors sharpen and are deliberate. They make mistakes. They put up words of different kind, like they would tell it in this way as well as on the other way. So back and forth, knowing of things, disengaging, recruiting, working, shaping, valuing will additionally come into that person. Understanding, separating what is attaching, generating, all laughing, crying, composing, serving, all this would be in the adolescence years when mind is in a time of turbulence and stress. They also learn new words and they also try to, see the world in a new light. And when a person goes into adulthood, that the same person behavior deepens. The behavior will deepen because the cognition also very well formed. Only pruning happens. The brain structures and all does not is not forming at that point of time. So behaviors deepen and becoming a part of the self. Then the insight would be more stronger. There would be an understanding about independence and not to be independent. Relationships will matter. Initiatives will be taken in various new things. But the person can interplay with the different kind of defense mechanism, and what is mature, what is immature defense mechanism. One of them is like humor. Creativity will be used, and morality based. So these are the things like, developmental stages of resilience. Then the same model, when I see the two forces are at work as a child or children face and interact with troubles in their lives. You must have seen that children, when they come with their problems, they will be very, very straight and they will tell you as it is, without a comma or a full stop. They experience and immediately they would come to a person whom they trust. The most importantly, maybe the mother, or it could be somebody in the house. It could be a grandmother, from where they get, they get the trust and trust of sharing. So interweaving arrows represents this interplay, and the troubles are seen as a danger as well as an opportunity. Whatever is being seen, they'll come straight cut tell to the people whom they trust. A child learns to rebound faster by experimenting, branching out, and developing their own resources. And over the time, these self-protective behaviors develop into a strength that is called as resilience. When the troubles come, they may go through different procedures, zigzag way. They might go through different kind of, absorbing thing. But ultimately, there will be a resolving, and that is called as resilience. And sometimes if they are not, like the environment where they are there, if it is a situation of mistrust, or if there is a situation they did not have a good attachment with the mother, or if there is betrayal, or their childhood adverse experiences were there, then definitely for this child this will also lead to pathologies in the later part of their life. So this is basically speaking about the behavior aspect of the child as they go into adulthood. So what would be the behavioral resilience? So cultivate optimism in the child. Optimism means to be realist, not to give a total fantasy, expectation from the future, everything is good, nice, may not be
Excuse
that.
me, ma'am.
So,
I'm sorry
yes,
for the interruption. Ma'am, we are
yes,
running short of time. Can we make it fast?
okay. So there could be a shift in the focus, process difficult feelings, social connectedness, and mindfulness. This I can come later in the question part. The next part of the presentation was family resilience, and in this it says the family possesses unique and innate qualities, strength, and skills that enable them to adapt life challenges despite that increasing diversity and complexity, despite the increasing diversity and complexity of the family structures. So these we see it nowadays quite often, and we understand that when we talk about the family, it is not one person, it is a many person in the families which are being involved because it is a grouped setup. So this is an important study which by McCubbin, maybe those who are interested can go in details of the study of McCubbin in 1998. Family resilience can also be described as the characteristics, dimensions, and properties which help the families to be resistant to disruption in the face of change and adaptive in the face of crisis. So, meaning to say that family resilience refers to the family's ability to function in a healthy fashion during the times of change, stress, adversity, crisis, and transition. So, qualities of a resilient families, what should be there? One is that commitment is very important in the resilient families. Number two, there should be appreciation, that we just think about it, keep it to our heart and head. No, it has to be shared. It needs to be told to the other person that you have done a wonderful thing. I always believe in family rituals, that do the rituals. It is a like a it's like a buffer to for a better life for the next day. So there are certain times like spending time together, communicating and be direct, be, know the style of communication, pattern of communication, open, loud, clear. Then also there has to be certain family values. A family which has good values, you will see that they are better resilient in, or they are better able to handle the things in future. Dealing with crisis positively. Crises are part and parcel of life. We cannot shun away or we cannot disregard our crisis, but it has to be dealt very positively. So the key resilient processes will be family belief system, making meaning of the adversities, positive outlook, spirituality and transcendence, flexibility and connectedness. So coping is one of the most important aspect along with resilience. That is active coping oriented strategies like positive distraction, seeking social support and identifying the solutions. Emotional focus coping strategies will be journaling, writing, doodles, mindfulness, meditation. So this is what I have to say. Thank you so much for the time. And these are certain measuring tools by which resilience could be measured. You can self-administer or administer on others.
Thank you
Thank
so much, ma'am. Ma'am, we have one question.
Yeah.
So, intellectualization is positive defense mechanism, you told, but it can be negative as well. If the child perceives death of a parent in an intellectual manner, then it can be harmful.
Yes, actually, while I was saying, I also thought about it. But intellectualization, in certain aspect, it is good. But how it is taken in further aspect of it, then it could be difficult. But however, it is in between. There are certain defense mechanisms which are in between, and intellectualization falls in between ones.
Any questions from audience side? Thank you so much, ma'am, for explaining very clearly about the process involved and the 7 theories and all the developmental stages. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation, ma'am, once again.
Thank you so much. Thank you, the entire team.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, we'll move on to next session. So next we have a very special session. Like every year as a part of a conference, we launch a campaign. The South Club was the product of the conference on nurturing child environment in the year 2018. In 2019, the same campaign was launched, and in this year, the YHRD Club, Young Human Rights Defenders Club, a childbirth during the lockdown. So now presenting the launch of the campaign for this year over to the club members.
I request the tech team to please play the introductory video of the club.
My social background, I'm a Dalit coming from Guntur district, and I have been a student of University of Hyderabad from 2010.
The member of the Maharashtra State Women's Commission has said that women must not dress provocatively and must watch the way they behave. Bringing up the Nirbhaya gang rape case, Asha Mirje questions, did Nirbhaya have to watch a movie at 11 p.m.?
A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. A very good afternoon to one and all. Today, I feel privileged to have this opportunity to introduce the Young Human Rights Defenders Club, a step towards realization for human rights for all. The club members are Mr. Salman Raja, Ms. Kavita Shankar, Mr. Samuel Jairaj, and Ms. Shivangi Gupta. The Young Human Rights Defenders Club in Department of Social Work aided Madras Christian College was initiated in collaboration with People's Watch as a part of the fieldwork of second-year social work students, Mr. Samuel Raja, and my apologies, Mr. Salman Raja and Ms. Kavita Shankar. As social work students, they recognized that human rights form the foundation of everything the profession practices and stands for. Hence, the Human Rights Defenders Club was conceived as a platform to create awareness about societal issues from a human rights perspective. The idea to initiate a club like Young Human Rights Defenders Club was sparked when the students organized webinars on caste arrogant killings and custodial torture deaths. The inaugural ceremony of the club was held on 2nd October 2020 in the presence of Supreme Court Advocate Mr. Prashant Bhushan, who gave a special address on India's state of freedom of expression. Coming on to the vision of the club. Next slide, please. YHRD Club is designed to enable youth to discuss and debate various ideologies and stand up for human rights for the betterment of the society. This is evident from the club's vision statement, which is to discuss, act, and change. The club aims to create awareness amongst youth to perceive societal issues from a human rights lens. The club's mission is to defend the violations of human rights occurring in the society and speak against injustices by organizing webinars through print media and various other forms of mass communication. The Young Human Rights Defenders Club has been formed with the following objectives: to educate youth about their rights, to raise voice for the voiceless through campaigns, conducting discussions and conferences, defend legally through social action, and releasing newsletters and articles. Since its inauguration, the Young Human Rights Defenders Club has been involved in various activities. A webinar on discourse on caste versus rights was organized with the Member of Parliament, Mr. Ravi Kumar, as the speaker. The second activity undertaken by the club was the Know Your Rights campaign to increase awareness among the school-going children about their rights. To mark the occasion of Human Rights Day, the club released a video on Universal Declaration of Human Rights, where youth from all over the country took a pledge to stand up for human rights. The club also released a poster on India's ranking in 2020 from a global perspective through data. Among these, the Know Your Rights campaign is going to be one of the flagship events of the club. For child rights education of the children, the club utilized the art of storytelling, where for different child rights violation, a short story was written along with a small picture and told to the children, who then had to guess which of their rights was being violated. This enhanced the learnings of the children from the campaign. In the upcoming Know Your Rights events, Young Human Rights Defenders Club is also going to focus on child rights against sexual abuse. As a part of World Vision's It Takes Every Citizen to End Child Sexual Abuse campaign. This would ensure holistic education and protection for children. I now invite Ms. Kavita Shankar, co-convener of the club, to elaborate on the pre-conference campaign undertaken by the club as a part of this study conference. Thank you. Oh.
So as part of a conference, we did a campaign on political resilience. Political resilience is nothing but educating human rights from the IHRD club. So, a slide please, campaign on political resilience. So we did the campaign in 3 ways, which is the first one is small step towards justice. So here we educated human rights by sticking the poster in all the MCC campus. The 30 posters will be on UDHR articles, which is Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Next slide. Let's ponder campaign on political resilience, which is I stand for human rights. So this is we wanted to get a solidarity support from the MCC campus students. So we did a handprint campaign, that is the photo behind this, and helping them to help themselves. So we distributed pamphlets all over the MCC campus. Like the pamphlets will have what is human rights and how can we become a human rights defender. That will be the content, and we distributed the pamphlets over the campus. Then let's ponder over politics. So we asked the students to write, if they become a prime minister, what are the policies they will implement in this country? As we know, there are a lot of situations happening in the country. So we wanted to analyze what the students perceive in the MCC campus. So we had an analysis also. So we were when we are going through the different data, we divided into different themes. So the first theme is poverty, gender, children. Under poverty, there were a lot of repetitive answer, but then a few things are free food, help below poverty line people, service from slum dwellers. And from the gender side, they wanted to increase the marriage age for women, equal curfew timings. So there was an explanation also. If there is a equal curfew time for men, there won't be any issue for women. So there were lots of interesting opinions like that. Then transgender. On children, they wanted to help orphanage children, and they wanted to have an inclusive education for orphanage children also. So supporting old age women. Next slide, please. Then for political reforms. So when we are asking them to implement a lot of things on policies, there were lots of policies students explained on political reforms. So the main thing we had was awareness on human rights and compulsory participation of students in election. Change age limit of candidates who are trying to participate in the election. then end corruption. Then there was another also, like each family household they should be given 2000 rupees monthly, so that they won't be any issues, they can run the family. And there was also an interesting explanation, like in the COVID time, if there is a policy, if they are giving like 2000 rupees, it would have been much more helpful for the people. Then on education, increase investments in governmental institutions so that to avoid private and privatization. Then there was one comment, water facilities in educational institutions. It was actually shocking to us to know that it is also a query they are posting it now, even now in this era. Then regulating fee structure, open education system, online classes. Then the other theme is health, farmers, transport, redressal. In health, many people have suggested free medical services, focus on fitness, medical allowances. Then farmers, there was also a comment on support farmers protest. Then in transport redressal, many of them spoke on reducing the diesel and petrol prices, changing traffic rules. Then caste and reservation. Next slide, please. Next slide. Next slide. So on caste and reservation, many people said they need income certificate. There should not be a reservation. Then there should not be a caste certificate. There should be a ban on caste completely. It was actually shocking to know that even in this period, people are justifying that there should not be a caste-based reservation system. So we were also speaking about introducing a further more debates and discussions on how much it is important to know reservation system in this educational institutions. Then there should be an end to the discrimination, like eradicating racism, caste system, and promoting inter-caste marriage. And on environment, clean rivers, strict rules to ban plastic. Next slide, please. Then on employment and livelihood, there will be job opportunities for women and all pass for school and college students. So there was also a brief explanation, like who are the people who are engaged in governmental institutions, like who are employed in governmental institutions, should educate their children in government school only, should do their health checkup in the government hospital only, so that there will be a much more promotion, or there'll be a much quality health facilities in the departments. On technology, there's a comment on free internet, develop culture through technology. And next slide. So this was one of the very much attractive statement we had. So on the first page, on the first image, there is transgender must be allowed to work in all the sectors to so policy for their development will be implemented. Crores of people has no shelter to stay, and crores of people eat food only one time a day. Then the second images, இந்தியாவின் இறையாண்மை மற்றும் சமத்துவத்தை பாதுகாப்பேன், which is they will protect secularism and equality in the country if they become a prime minister. இந்தியாவின் என்றும் சமாதானமும் மாநில மதப்பேதமை நீங்கவும் பாடுபடுவேன். இந்தியாவின் நிதிச்சுமை கடன் அனைத்தையும் நீக்கி உள்நாட்டு உற்பத்தி பெருகவும் வேளாண்மை கல்வி சுகாதாரம் தாழ்த்தப்பட்டோர் நல்வாழ்வு ஆகிய துறைக்கும் முதன்மை அளிப்பேன். Like they were trying to say that if they become a prime minister, they will be handling the financial issues and the debt very nicely, and they also work on the farmers education, cleanliness, and especially for minorities they will work. So this was two images that we took a photograph. Now I welcome Mr. Solomon Raja, convener of the YHRD Club, to take forward the session. Thank you.
Good evening to one and all present here. I like to present about the campaign which we're going to launch very soon in our fieldwork communities. This is just we going to propose. Before that, we prepared like a module on the campaign called Non-Irregular. The name itself, you can ask me what is the meaning of the name, and what actually it comes to say to the people and also to the students. Non-irregular is, it's a Tamil word. In English, it's called as I am irregular. So I like to also like to add, I'm a Dalit. So to come up to get an education, it takes almost 5 to 6 generations because of I'm a Dalit. So like that, in the name of discriminations, in the name of violations, in the name of birthplace, Indian Constitution, according to Indian Constitution, says Article 14 to 18. It explains about the right to equality. So in the if you go and read all the rights, means it will explains about the in the name of violations, in the birthplace of discriminations. It explains about the two things. So from that only, we framed it as a campaign non-irregular. If I'm a irregular, I could be, I should be the landless. If I'm a irregular, I should be the snake catcher still. If I'm the irregular, I should not go to schools. If I'm the irregular, I should not to come to the workplace, like that, in the name of irregular. If we, the regular struggle of the irregulars is FAB students and other students. You all know about the getting community certificates. So the legal entitlements. We also work for the legal entitlements for the sustainability. If a irregular, they themselves were going, if they go to the collectorate office, if they ask for the file the petition for the irregular, immediately whoever, whether the RDO or collector, even the upper official person, they will ask, if you are a irregular, perform a dance, perform a songs. This is a reality which happens in Vilupuram, Dindivanam, and Chengalpet, Tiruvallur also. In Tamil Nadu, nearly 7 districts irregular peoples are there. In the first slide, it says, according to the 2011 census, there were 1,89,000 irregulars were there in Tamil Nadu. So initially, irregular people, we know they are the natives of our country. So they are from the hills, forests. They lived under the trees in the dark forest. They lived under the mountains, like that. So after some years, they were sent out. They were evicted from their own place where they ruled actually. So they were sent out of the forest and they came into the in Tamil they will call it as Samaveli. That is in plains and near the nearby rivers and nearby other unrelated lands to them. So they automatically, the society and other caste people, they made to evict them to stay there. So when they came to the river and they came to the stay there, automatically all their rights. In the next slide, yeah. So automatically all their rights have been violated. This all the things we all know, but still I'm just giving an introduction why we already working a lot for the irregular, but why we need to add another campaign on irregular. So when they came, when they evicted and came to the city, all their rights to live, for their livelihood, for their dignity, and their basic rights had been violated and denied continuously. And mainly, if you notable, we all know about the bonded labor issue and getting legal entitlements, that is identities. But adding on to this, there is also another issue which need to be focused and need to be worked a lot on: custodial torture. Because in the custodial torture, irregulars are brought under the criminal dynasty. So has been, this act came before the our British rule, but still it has been practiced, and still in the police training, they automatically, in the training itself, they will teach them that these are the people under the criminals. So in a village, if I'm a irregular in my village, if any thefts happen, immediately they will come into the irregular community, they will pick the person, give them, they won't ask whether you go, they won't encourage directly, they will pick the person and they will you are the accused, so give the gold, give the money. So these are the issues continuously it's happening. And also one more thing I like to say, that you may see in the news articles that at least once in a year there will be twice in a year you may see that irregular hamlets been burned in a fire accident, like that. The fire accident, it's happened, or it's an accident or an incident, is the next research I think we have to I have to do. Because if you note all the things, it's not an accident, it's like a incident. I'm just sequentially I'm just telling all the issues of the irregulars, adding on to that custodial torture and also the fire accident. So this why we want to form a non-regular campaign in the name of violations happening. So when I went to the when I was working during lockdown, I did a field work in Kairamedu, Chengalpet district. I did a field work, and when I went to the collectorate office to file the petition, on that day, me and myself, my senior Mr. Muglan, we went to PV Kalatur to visit all the hamlets just to. For my learnings, I went along with him to see all the hamlets over there. I observed everything, and I also get many learnings. What my seniors did, and what I have to do in my future, everything. So, and now also we doing FAP in Tiruvallur. So on observing all the things, usually NGOs or organization or even social workers, they do welfare activities. So welfare activities for to address the temporary issue and meet the felt needs. But for the sustainability, we also doing a for working related to the social policies to for the sustainability. But still, after working with these all things, if still experiencing, I felt that something is missing in any place. What is that? Then I discussed with my club members, with some of the seniors, some of the organizations who are working in all other districts. Then I felt, and I with all the discussions, I came out that people are continuously being kept at the receiving end. The receiving end concept, which I'll finish in 2 minutes. Sorry. So the people are being continuously kept in the receiving end. So to bring out the people from the receiving end, we plan to form a campaign. So we thought to educate. We had a motto that educate, discuss, act, change. So we thought of educating their own rights. That is right to life, right to human dignity, right to equality, right to freedom, and right to exploitation. These are the rights they also know, and we also know. Why we want to teach them again is to bring a technique called consciousness raising, to make them to think again, to make them to put in a discussions among themselves, and then to bring them to act for the change. So how we are going to do, what this campaign exactly going to do is this: how can I and my community can act. So in this thing, you can see a flow like a table, like representatives, that is defenders unit. Since we formed as a young humans defenders, we use the term. So in every community, you may see this the different category of people, that is child, women, men, and elder and youth. So from that main, we thought of forming wings, like wings of the campaign, that child rights forum, women's forum, and men's program. So these all will be the different in the same community. Will be educating their rights, and will put on the discussions. What are the violations? What are the discrimination has been done? So after the discussion, we'll make them to act towards the change. So you can see the youth that under that. So what is the youth role? Youth role is the main thing that we are going to focus. That every youth in the rural community, they need to be they'll be organizing the people, and they will organizing the people towards the change. This is a rough. This is the module that we have designed. This will be experimenting in the upcoming fieldwork days. After experimenting, we'll also will give the proposal to the. We plan to give to the proposal to our department with along with other suggestions also to execute in all other FAP communities. So so the So this is the campaign called non-irregular. We framed non-irregular. இம்மண்ணின் பூர்வ குடியா ஆம் நான் இருளர். சமூக நல்லவர்களுக்கு பொருள்காட்சியாகவும், சமூக வல்லவர்களுக்கு குற்ற பரம்பரையாகவும், ஆதிக்கத்திற்கு ஒடுக்கப்பட்டவனாகவும், கொத்தடிமையாகவும், சாதிய வன்மத்திற்கு பாலின பசிக்கும் இரையாகவும், அனுதின சுரண்டலுக்கு பலியாகவும் இவர்கள் மனதில் எண்ணிருக்கும் நான் இருளர். நம் கற்றலும் நம்முடைய கற்பித்தலும் தான் நாளைய சமுதாயத்தை உருவாக்கும். சமூக பணி மாணவர்களாக மனித உரிமை கலாச்சாரத்தை வளர்ப்போம், மனிதத்தை காப்போம். தேங்க்யூ ஸோ மச்.
Good evening, all. A warm welcome to the poster presentation. This session will be chaired by the faculties of Department of Social Work, Madras Christian College, Along with them, Mr. Kumaran will be chairing the session. General instructions to the participants. The time allotted for the presentation will be 6 minutes, and I request all the participants to be in a good to be with good connectivity and to avoid the distractions. And also, there will be a reminder at 5 minutes and 30 seconds. The technical team will share the presentation, after which you may start your presentation. Now we will start with the presentation. First, I call upon Miss Anna Jacob to start with the presentation.
I hope I'm audible.
Yes, Anna, you are audible.
Okay. So a very good afternoon to one and all present here. My topic for today is Rising Like a Phoenix, Economic Resilience After the COVID-19 Pandemic. So the economic development of any country depends on various factors like the growth rate, the GDP rate, the livelihood of people. And this economic development can be at risk during the crisis situations. So one such crisis situation which the nations all over the globe faced and are still facing is the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic. And India also is facing a huge reduction in the government revenue, fall in GDP, job losses, supply of essential commodities due to panic buying, reduced production, etc. So to overcome such dangers, it is very essential for the policymakers and the government to plan and formulate strategies to come out of this economic crisis. And it is necessary for them to adapt to the changes and the changes in the way the economy works, and it should take steps to prevent further disintegration of the economy. Next slide. Okay, so this paper aims at analyzing the impact of the pandemic on the various sectors of the economy and the possible strategies which can be adopted to combat the economic crisis and to build a more sustainable and a resilient economy. So for this study, an analysis was done by collecting data through sources like newspapers, articles, and research papers, through website and through publications issued by the government. An analysis of the impact of the pandemic on the various sectors of the economy like agriculture, aviation and tourism, manufacturing, etc. was done, and a summarized review of the various strategies and measures that can be taken by the various policy makers and government to combat the economic crisis was done. Next slide. Okay, so the effects of the pandemic on the various sectors of the economy was analyzed, and it was found that there was a negative effect on the various sectors of the society, of the economy, like education, banking, manufacturing, agriculture. So all these sectors faced a lot of losses and setbacks due to the pandemic, and it brought about dangers in various forms like capital shortage, financial losses, deterioration of social unity, increase in poverty and inequalities, livelihood crisis, and which has affected all the segments of the economy. The steps taken by the government, like social distancing and other safety measures, prevented or stopped the people from going out. And this has caused a loss to the people all over the world. And the most vulnerable population were the most affected by the aftermath of the pandemic. Next slide. So a review of the strategies to combat the economic crisis was done, and the following strategies were reviewed, which were as follows. So the unemployment problem, which is the major problem which is faced during this pandemic. So the strategy which can be for achieving a higher growth, wages can be lowered, which means that as the unemployment increases, the demand for the product decreases, which means that the production will be reduced. And this will cause a fall in the growth rate of the economy. So if a lower wage is provided to each and every employee, the demand can increase, which can increase the production, and thus the growth rate in the economy can increase as money will flow in the economy. The next is to invest more on public health care. So during this uncertain times, the healthcare is the most important thing, and public healthcare can be one step which can be affordable by all the sect of the population, and Indian government can spend more on the public healthcare and thus providing affordable and quality healthcare services to the population. The next is boosting the economy by increasing public spending. So if the government keeps the fiscal sternness aside and if it spends more on the investment towards public spending like infrastructure, education, technology, the country can come out of the economic crisis. The next is innovation. Instead of looking back at the losses and problems which the economy is facing, steps can be taken to redesign the economy and bring some innovation and move the business and the way the economy functions to a new paradigm. Welfare of the citizens. The purpose of the businesses should not be profit alone, but focus should be more on the citizens rather than focusing on a target customer.
Ma'am, you have 30 seconds more.
Okay. And holistic growth approach would be helpful for the nation's overall growth. Next slide. Automation and digitalization. So as we all know, the work from home culture has become prevalent, and this can work for a few sectors, and for some service sectors like restaurants and hotels, maybe the robotics can come up, and this can boost the way the work happens, and adoption of automation and digitalization can help in overcoming such.
Excuse me, ma'am. Sorry to interrupt. Time is up.
Okay.
Thank you,
conclude. Yeah.
Please conclude.
Yeah. So investing in sustainable infrastructure and more public spending can help the economy to come out of the crisis situation. My last slide. So I would like to conclude by saying that even if the country is going through economic crisis, the government and citizens are competent to tackle this great challenge. And it is difficult to predict which changes and strategies can be adopted permanently and which cannot be. So government, business, public sectors, private sectors, and citizens of the nation can join hands and strive hard to bring the economy out of the present crisis situation. Thank you.
A good presentation, Hannah.
Thank you, sir.
In your presentation, you are not mentioned about your research design. What is your research design?
So actually, I did a kind of a review paper. I collected the reviews from various sources, and I did a kind of a review paper. So collecting the secondary.
Based on what research design you did that?
So the secondary data I collected, and I did a study. Okay.
So in your research, based on secondary data, you analyzed the findings.
Yes.
What is the relevance you find in the present budget of Government of India about resilience?
So the government is taking steps to
Be specific. Be specific.
So yes, they are bringing some changes in the fiscal policy and the monetary policy. The banking area also, they are bringing changes, which is being helpful for the government, and they are even providing for the public so that it can be beneficial for them to come out of.
So amalgamation of banking will help in resilience, economic resilience for the country.
So yes, it can.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll go to the next presentation.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Next presentation will be Miss Akila Selvan from MES College.
Good evening, all. I'm Agila Selvan JS. I'm currently doing my fourth semester MSW at MES College at Meli. I'm here to present on the topic Community Resilience and COVID-19, a case study of Thutur village in Tamil Nadu. Next slide, please. WHO 2019 stated that corona disease is an infectious disease caused by a newly discovered coronavirus. The coronavirus, which originated in Wuhan, spread to other countries in a very short time period, threatening the very existence of the economic and social well-being of other countries. Health organizations and the public sectors of every country was working together to prevent the spread of the coronavirus. Along with the policies and programs implemented by the government, many of the communities come forward with their own strategies to control the spread of the coronavirus and to reduce its efforts. Coastal belt in Thiruvananthapuram, Kanyakumari has also faced adverse impacts during this period. The high population density, cohabitation, and the working conditions make the coastal region a favorable location for corona expansion. Thutur is a small coastal village in Kanyakumari district, come forward with their own community resilience strategies, collaborating with the church, not only a religious institution. Here, church actors not only as a religious institution, but also as a socio-cultural space. Next slide, please. This paper is an outcome of the qualitative study, and in-depth interviews are conducted to collect the data. It was a descriptive research. The narratives of the respondents used to define the community resilience in the Thutur village. Media reports, online sources, and YouTube videos are used as a secondary sources of data collection. The universe of the study is the Thutur coastal village, and the sampling technique used is snowball sampling, and interacted with the 5 of the respondents from the locality. Next slide, please. The Thutur model in controlling the spread of COVID-19 was effective, even though it was not gained much importance or not discussed in the mainstream media or academia. This paper tries to document the experiences and the strategies they used as community resilience during the COVID-19 crisis. This paper also focuses on the role played by the church, not as a religious space, but also as a socio-cultural space to intervene in reducing the pandemic crisis. Public systems are always tries to constrain the identity of the people living in that particular area, but not really ready to implement any plans to the progress of the people. Next slide, please. Here are my findings. First one is coastal identity and COVID resilience. Fisher folk form an important community, but fishing community is a distinct group of people geographically located in the coastal areas and have their own way of life and a distinctive culture from others. The density of the population is very high all along the coastal line when compared to the midland and the highlands. Thiruvananthapuram and Kanyakumari was separated for the governance of the post-independence, but they share common cultures and common feelings, especially in coastal belt. It was very difficult to implement plans and programs in such a densely populated areas such as coastal areas. It should be necessary to ensure the participation of the people living in the community to control the spread of corona and to reduce the effect of the COVID in coastal line. This model is an eye-opener for many of the coastal villages for developing strategies in a crisis situation. Next one is community resilience of a Thutur model. The Latin Catholic Church is a group that has played a significant role in dealing with the spread of COVID-19 in the coastal regions. The activities to prevent COVID implemented in Tutur under the leadership of Father John Dal can be carried out in the densely populated coastal villages of Kerala. The major activities by the in the Tutur model of community resilience in COVID-19 was a doctor and his wife from the locality informed the parish priest, Father John Dar, about the possibilities of COVID-19 outbreak and its effect and its adverse effect in the coming days. They created a WhatsApp group in order to share the messages and to make the people aware about the COVID-19 crisis.
Excuse me, ma'am. You have 30 seconds more.
Okay, and they also, the two women are appointed to inquire about the health and to ensure the quarantine periods. A mic and a speaker was installed to give awareness. 28 horns are established to prevent the gatherings of people. 7,000 masks made of cotton were distributed. Lines are marked with the 1 meter distance in public places to ensure social distancing. A team of youth was selected to arrange emergency things to the people, those who are staying in home. Church provided financial assistance and distributed food kits. With the help of Vincent de Paul Society, food was distributed 3 times for the people living in isolation. The church used a step-by-step process by ensuring the participation of the community to prevent the spread of the COVID-19. And next one, redefining church's space in the COVID crisis. Latin Catholic Church influence not only in the religious life
Excuse me,
of the
ma'am.
people.
Your time is up. Please conclude it soon.
Okay. Like any other church, the Latin Catholic Church also involves in their family problems, border disputes. So the people are ready to obey them. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. As this paper was focusing on documenting the experiences, so no more suggestions to give. And concluding this, Tutur model of COVID resilience was very effective in a coastal area, such a densely populated area.
Okay.
It was very effective to control the spreading of COVID-19. The church came in front of the society and played a crucial role to control the spread of the COVID-19. The church was not only acted as a religious institution, but it is a space for cultural, socio-cultural spheres in the community. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now, floor is open for questions. Now, from the audience, you can raise any questions.
Good evening, ma'am. So the question that I have for you is, can you please tell the sample size of your research?
I selected, hello, am I
Yes,
audible?
you're audible. Yes, you're audible.
I selected snowball sampling because I'm a native from the particular society, particular community. So I'm very easy to use snowball sampling, and I have connected with some of the people there. So I because of the short time period, I only contacted with the 5 respondents from the particular society.
Ma'am, is there a reason why you only included church to be like, were there other religious institutions or other community organizations that played a role in developing the community resilience in that area?
I think the church is not acted as a religious space. It was acted as a socio-cultural space and influenced the life of the each and every people living there. And it was very effective, but it was not discussed in any mainstream media or in any other academia. So I selected, it was very effective. So I selected this to make it more to make the resilience model to reach more of the people.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Great. Ma'am, am I audible?
Yes.
Okay, so you say that like what you use church as like what a place for resilient the community. No, in our country, in like particularly in our state,
to hospital settings, like controlling the COVID through hospital setting is like a big task for us. Then how did you manage the situation through church itself?
Church provide a great space because church the church in Tutur village influence the day-to-day life of the people. So the people obey the church more when compared to the ASHA workers or health workers or any other police. Church obey more. Church obeys the people obeys what the church say.
Yes, yes. Thank you. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. But your research is lacking in scientific framework. It is not up to the mark. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next, I call upon Professor Tamirian from BWDA Arts and Science College to present.
Hello. Hello.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You are audible.
So can you hear my voice? Hello.
Yes, sir.
My voice
We can
is
hear you.
yeah. Very good afternoon, one and all those are present here. I take great opportunity to express my sincere thanks to organizing committee for organizing this wonderful event. I have taken this research topic. Can you move on the next slide, please? Hello. I have taken topic on the to study health status of the elder person in the old age home. Actually, in the 2011 census of India, 20% of people are above 60 years. So what they feel in our country, we see that the elders are we called as a god. For those days, this god has been sent to the old age home. So unfortunately, their people are supposed to be stay in our home, but they are staying in their old age home. Even the some of children they know who is their grandma, grandfather, daughter. So this culture we are developed now. See, if it is going to be occur for the in future, we don't know what will be happen, whether we are going to see the elder person face or not. Can you move the next slide? According to the WHO, we said that health is a status of the physical and mental and social well-being. But when you talk to the, even though as a youth, as if we are also called, how many hours we have spent to speak with our elders. Even we those days, we even the elders, they are also called as a children. They are also aware of that they need some support from us. Someone can speak with me for I can express my feeling to someone else. They are awaiting, but we are rejecting to speak with our elders due to our environment busy, even though our work busy. But what I feel that hereafter will take some initiatives. At least every day I supposed to speak with my elders 1 hour or half an hour per day. That will be bring out the elders to be happy in our society. We cannot bring out changes in our society. At least we can bring some changes in our family. So our family can be a role model for the others. So I even have taken the aim of the study. There are elders are still they are discriminated. If they have these some properties, we will take care of the elders. If doesn't have the any properties, we'll simply will send out to the old age home. So this situation is currently happening for the both rural as well as the urban area. Even though the environment has playing a major role, those days the family system of the giant family has played major role. Today what happened? People are like to go with only the nuclear family system because I want to be enjoy my life. This intention has taken place. I have studied these studies from the MNT is one of the organizations working for the elder person in Cuddalore. Next slide, please. So I have I will use the research design for the study, descriptive research design. Simply I adopted interview schedule for the to collecting data from the respondent sample size from the 50 respondents. Even if we want to be admitted the scales for measuring the quality, but they are not aware of, even if you're asking for the simple questions, even if we are interactive with this elder person, they want to be express their feeling, but simply they do not answer to what we are asking. They are ultimately, can you sit here, can you speak with me for half an hour? So I am suffering from this problem. Can you help me? I am seeing as a my son. Can you rectify this problem? So we have simply adopted interview schedule to collect data from the respondents. Can you move on the next slide? So you can imagination the finding which has been taken from a studies, even though we can see the majority people still they are filled as a orphan because they have the children. The children are neglected the elders. Can you away from my house? So where they go, they cannot go. They cannot be stay in the street or they cannot be go for somewhere else. Ultimately, they go for the orphanage. Even though they are the people, they have the wealth. Even they have the pension scheme and all. Those they are getting the pension, they are staying in the old age. Then they are paying the rent also. So you can imagine it that even they have the children, but they cannot stay in the home also. So ultimately, they feel that the mental, they can get stress, then restlessness. They always feel that they don't feel as if they are happy because every day they are facing a lot of problem in around us. So they feel they are not be very feel they take care of the food in properly also. Can you move on the next slide? So can you see what are the problem they are physically are facing? So they are asking the lock up appetite problem, then they lock up the sleepness, then weight losses. Even though they are those who are gone for above 65, they suddenly they love the love partner if he has death, they cannot be tolerated. So they are wondering how are their life going to be survived, especially for the mental problem. Every day we across above 60, generally we have the memory, then depression, attribution also be stress also be come out. What even they if they what facilities
Excuse
they are
me, sir.
given? Yes,
You
ma'am.
have 30 seconds more.
Oh, what are the activities they are doing in they're simply watching the TVs and the games and reading the newspaper. Can you move on to the next slide? So what I feel that even the government has announced a welfare scheme and welfare policies also be available. How many elders are really utilizing this scheme? We should be as a social worker, we should be adopted and even government should pass a special bill to take care of the elders up to the death. This special has to be addressed with all everyone, those who are living in our country. Then government should run this government orphanage to take care of the elders. What I conclude that simply saying from the Tamil world, வாழும் தெய்வங்களாக இருக்கும் நம் முதியோர்களை நாம் உயிர் உள்ள வரைகளும் அநாத இல்லத்திற்கு அனுப்பாமல் வாழ்வதே நாம் உயர்ந்த வாழ்வு. வாய்ப்புக்கு நன்றி, கூடிய விடைபெறுகிறேன். நன்றி. Thank you, sir, for this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Tamiran. Participants?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Participants, you can raise questions.
Okay. Sir, am I audible?
Yes, sir. Please, sir. Proceed.
Okay, okay. Shivangi.
Good evening, sir. Really nice presentation. My
Yeah, madam.
question to you would be that how prevalent was elder abuse in their homes? Like you said, most people, the reason for living in an old age home they gave was restlessness they felt in their own home. So I want
Yeah,
to
madam.
ask that what was the prevalence of elder abuse in their homes? Did you find any instances? If yes, then what was its prevalence?
Yeah, when you talk to them, they don't express the abuse and all because actually they people are sharing with the feeling. Someone they even one can share with other feeling, others can be shared with. When I gone to the days, I don't feel they cannot be express their feeling and all. If someone is address me, so me I can across with the questions and all. They said we are happy, sir, we are staying here, but what we feel that we don't have the family members. So that's a question, that's an expression feeling by the respondent.
Thank you, sir.
Hello.
Okay. Thank you, Tamiran.
Yes,
good
sir.
presentation. Thank you. We'll go for
Thank
the
you,
next
sir.
presenter. Thank you,
Thanks
Tamiran.
for organizing. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Next, I call upon Mantra Sri, a social work practitioner, to present.
I hope I'm audible.
Yes, you are audible, ma'am.
Good evening, everyone. So I'm Mantra. Today my topic is on a study on psychosocial problems faced by the intersex people. Next slide, please. So in LGBTQIA, the I represent the intersex people. So intersex people, there's often a misconception that they are transgender or they belong to a transgender community, which is not so. They biologically inherit both female and male character traits, genital organs, or chromosomes, hormones, these are the criteria which they inherit. But this is again not necessary. Since till now, today, 40 different variation of intersex people have been categorized, but there are each and every day, there's a new research coming up that there's one more characteristics which is being inherited by a intersex person. So 1 in 100 life birth to 1 in 11,000 births are intersex people. Nearly 1.7 of world's population belong to intersex people. So they are mostly categorized as disorder of sex development people. Next slide, please. So the research methodology is research design is descriptive by nature. So the primary data was based on the case studies which was collected, and the secondary data was through various journals, news articles, and statistical reports. Next slide. So before this, I would like to tell about the 3 case studies which I collected. So the first case study, the person, he is a male intersex. I define him as a male intersex because the hormones which he has imbibed, it had more inclination towards the male genital organs. So he's be termed as a male intersex person. So he belongs to a cine field right now, and so during his 10 years, he got his first periods. It was even surprising for the doctors that how can he have periods? Then they thought it might be due to some health issues. Later, they discovered that he has uterus. Recently, there's again a case in United Nations that an 18-year-old boy had uterus and he delivered a child through cesarean method. So he belongs to one of those criteria. Comes under one of those 40 characters, 40 variations of intersex people. So later, he developed a psychological problem because he wasn't acceptable by his family, by schoolmates, or the institution where he went for the work. And even in cine industries, he faced a lot of harassment, sexual harassment especially. And health issues, he started developing a lot of health issues because it is different from a women menstruating or women having periods than a men having periods. And again, there was a partition from the family and lack of identity crisis. Usually these intersex people, they always have this lack of identity crisis because their birth certificate claims that they are male or female, whereas their medical report states that they are intersex person. So there's again an identity crisis which they face. Next slide. So legal provisions for intersex people. So this was a landmark judgment was passed by Madras High Court. We are the first state in India to bring in a law for intersex people where genital mutilation for intersex people will be based on the child's own decision, not on based of the parents, because during the early childhood, parents wish that their child should be a female or male, and they do the genital operation based on that, but which further leads to health issues and health complications because the nature of intersex people is like they have a reverse process of whatever operation they have done, so which can lead to death, cancer, and all these kind of serious illness. So this legal provision was passed by Tamil Nadu government. If the entire country, if the entire India adopts this process, we'll be the second country to adopt a protection law for intersex people after Malta. Next slide. So findings and suggestions. Nearly 15,000 people in Tamil Nadu are intersex people, yet they have been unidentified, and 10,000 people are intersex. Every year, intersex child is born. there's again a lack of research-based study on intersex people, and there's a lot of confusion, health-related confusion among the doctors. Few doctors, they themselves don't know who are intersex people. For example, one of the case study where the person had to remove his uterus because it can lead to a cancer stage. So they removed the uterus, but it led to further complications where he had diabetes and all blood pressure increased. And now they have detected that they shouldn't have removed his uterus. Rather, they should have changed him. Rather, they should have been done a genital mutilation where he should have been changed as a trans woman. Now it
Excuse me,
can,
ma'am.
yeah.
You have 30 seconds more.
So, and there should be a more stringent laws which should come in all other states where they ban genital mutilation because it is leading to a serious issues among the children, health issues, cancer rates, and all. And most importantly, genital mutilation is something where it's more like a society wants from the person to be or how they want them to be. So we should build a knowledge that gender is not dimorphic, rather it's a gender spectrum. That's what the awareness we should build on among building a community based on resilience. Next slide. So to build again a resilient community, it is important we start from the schooling.
Excuse me, ma'am. Your time is up. Please try to conclude it soon.
Yes. So we should start a gender-based education in schooling so that the children can empathize with other gender and they don't find it very different. They don't find people very different when they grow up, or there won't be any societal pressure among them to adapt a minority community, minority gender-based community. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Please wait for question. Please answer
Yes.
the questions of the participants.
Okay.
Good evening, ma'am. So that was a very nice presentation. My question to you is, I'm guessing your respondents would have been intersex
Yes.
individuals. Yeah. So how was it that you found those people? I mean, it's a very sensitive topic, and even if you had to ask these questions, they wouldn't have come out very easily in answering. So how were you able to reach out to them? And another question, is there any specific institution that works for intersex individuals?
Okay, so the first question is like I interview the case study, all the 3 case studies is from the intersex people. So the first respondent belonged to a cine industry, so he has already his name is Chakravarti. You can go and see his YouTube videos where he said about all his life story there. So I contacted him, and through him I got in touch with the other intersex activists in North India. I don't want to reveal the other 2 names because they didn't want it that. The third respondent is in Tamil Nadu. His native is from Tirunelveli. He didn't want to reveal his identity because it was his sister's wedding. So he just told me the problems which he's been facing right now. He didn't get a job. He didn't get a job because he's an intersex person. So half of them are saying that he's faking because he's having a uterus and he looks like a male. So that's the identity crisis which I was talking about. And second question, just search Gopi Shankar. There's a Shrishti organization which is working towards this intersex people. They were the intersex activists who appealed in Madurai High Court and passed this judgment.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mantrasri.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next, I call upon Ms. Niveda from the United Theological College to present.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity. My topic: building inclusive, resilient communities for people living with disabilities. with special reference to socio-economic resilience, impact of COVID-19 lockdown. Next slide, please. This is quotation. Disabled people are not only the most deprived human beings in a developing world, they also are the most neglected. We have to build inclusive, resilient communities for the well-being of people living with disabilities. Resilience is the capacity of people to confront and cope with life's challenges and to recover from or adapt to adversity. Next slide, please. It shows what are the various barriers of people living with disabilities, especially cultural bias, lack of economic resources, lack of accessible transportation, lack of access to assistive technology and rehabilitation, lack of accessible of school facilities and lack of accessible of toilet facilities, and all the physical barriers and attitudinal barrier. Next slide, please. Community resilience are 4 phases. They are mitigation, preparedness, response, and recovery. Various interventions for building resilience communities are inclusive infrastructural facilities, improving the capacity of individuals, households, institutions to prevent, to prepare for and respond to and recover from disasters. Next slide, please. It's a qualitative analysis of case study using secondary source of information. Findings: women living with disabilities have self-resilience. They are vulnerable to COVID-19 and the impact of COVID lockdown, but they overcame through self-resilience and they empower the community of people living with disabilities. Next slide. Suggestions for coping. Supportive, inclusive environment. We have to create it to meet the requirements of the people living with disabilities. First, we have to do the need assessment and then we have to meet those requirements. And for both people living with disabilities and the caregivers. Education and training about safety, social distancing, creating easy accessible infrastructure, assisting health services, sensitization of the core groups about equal opportunities, dignity, respect, while providing services, accessible formats to gain information about COVID-19 and various support, both from NGOs and government. Next slide. Recommendations. We have to engage people living with disabilities to assess their needs. What are the various barriers they experience? We have to identify and implement the most appropriate measures. They must be involved in the strategic planning management. They must be included in the planning and they have to provide the resources, what are the various resources they need, and we have to prepare budget for disability inclusion for all program and recovery measures. We have to collect and monitor disability and gender disaggregated data, including employment and social protection data. Next slide, please. Need intersectional analysis between age, gender, disability, and various other factors to construct inclusive response and recovery measures. To build an accessibility and inclusive accommodation of all response and recovery measures, we have to expand coverage of social protection and ensure disability benefits cover all disability costs. Next slide, please. We have to ensure feedback and complaints mechanism during the COVID-19 response and recovery, which are accessible to all people living with disabilities. We have to encourage communication and coordination. We have to identify various opportunities to build strong resilience for people living with disabilities. In the long term, using the UN Convention on the Rights of Disabilities as rights of persons with disability as guiding framework. Next slide, please. People living with disability suffer in this pandemic situation. People living with disability, especially women living with disabilities, must be in the leadership position to plan and implement various strategies for building the inclusive, resilient communities by doing intersectional analysis of nature of disability and need assessment and various other factors. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Questions to the presenter.
It was a good presentation, ma'am. Ma'am, my question to you is, in this study, what were the types of disabilities that you covered? Was it specific to any one type, or did it include everybody?
It is not specific to one type. If we take A.K. Arnachalam and his wife Gita, both are blind, and a son diagnosed with intellectual disability. Therefore, they organized one institution, All India Blind Progressive Association, for the welfare of visually challenged and physically challenged people. If we take Nazima also, she's paraplegic and she has written autobiography, The Incredible Story. And our organization, Helpers of Handicapped, Kolhapur, Maharashtra. At the age of 16, she became paraplegic. She questioned the unjust society. So it's not only one type of disability.
Okay, thank you, ma'am, for the clarification. Are there any strategies in use for them, especially during the COVID-19? Are there any specific strategies in place for them?
Actually, there are various strategies they use. If you take in government, they have that number, helpline number. If they face any problem, they can call helpline number. Helpline number 1800425011. This is a helpline number. Whatever suffering they have, they can share it, and immediately they will get the help. And then there are many NGO organizations, as I mentioned, Helpers of Handicapped, All India Blind Progressive, and various other disability organizations. And they are doing their best to help them to improve their livelihood. Even self-help group, both from the government and from NGO, they help them by providing livelihood training program, and they themselves give all the resource materials.
Ma'am, I have a question. Ma'am, in your presentation, you were saying some recommendations like government have to take some innovative techniques and all. But from my experience or the cases I have seen, one of the major case or one of the major issue is with stigma, how people or the normal people react with the or get interacted with the people with disability. So I didn't see anything related to that in your topic, or can you explain about how the usual or the common people, I'm not using the term common people, how the other people other than the people having disability interact with the people having disability?
In the barriers I have mentioned, limited interaction. It is actually we don't use normal, we use non-disabled people. They have to get, what to say, they have to be very clear with the needs of the disabled and what they experience. Lot of deception that has to be deleted from their mind. They have to be more inclusive. It is through awareness program we can reach them. Yes. And inclusive education plays an important role in this.
Yes, thank you, Niveda. Very good presentation. Your findings are motivating us to work for the disability. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Next, I call upon Mr. Stanley V. Varghese from Madras Christian College to present.
Good afternoon, one all present here. Myself Stanley from the Department of Social Work, Madras Christian College. So my paper is on the topic impact on students by their involvement in students' political organization as agents of social change. So my research, to next slide, please. My research methodology is quantitative method and the design is exploratory research design. Sampling technique is snowball sampling and area of study as in districts, where 5 districts of Kerala as you see there. Sample size was 120 and respondents were students who were pursuing and have pursued their higher education from different colleges in these 5 districts. So those political organization whom the respondents were members were ABVP, SFI, KSU and AASF. To next slide. So what is the significance of this study? Political social work, even though the term has been coined in early 1990s, hasn't came to more of practice. But it is the time that we need to know political social work do have a lot of significance in this relevant era. Political social work majorly says about to successfully direct power and political dynamics to further social change. As in All India Survey of Higher Education of 2018-19 told that 37.4 million of students enrolled in that year. And also the World Bank report says that there are 600 million youths in India, making the India one of the youth populated nation in all country. So it is significant that we need to talk about everything related to youths and their system. So witnessing several students protests in previous decades that range from different, as you see, Citizen Amendment Act, Farmers Protest, EIA 2020, NEET protest, NEP protest. So students on the previous years were dealing with a lot of protest. Where were we or social workers to deal with such issues, to help them out, or what was our involvement in such areas too? And students' political organization is also a system which builds political resilience in students. So my major findings were 98% of my respondents told that they had positive impact on building audacity to ask for rights. So social workers, we are also doing advocacy and we works for social action. So building audacity is one of the needed things. So it is said that when students' political organizations succeeded in building audacity to ask for their rights as well as others' rights too. So all of my respondents agreed that the organization assisted to keep them updated and relevant about what is happening right now. And 97% of respondents conveyed that the organization was effective in building factors such as internal efficacy, critical thinking, leadership qualities, and decision-making capacity. Here, the internal efficacy means that it's a belief that one have that he or she can have an effect on government's decision. So it actually means that it's my belief I can have an effect on the further decisions that's it to take. So the political social workers, political organization acted very well in building internal efficacy, decision-making capacity in students. Moving on, it also says that 96% of my respondents said organization acts as a political empowerment agent. Do we need to be political in this era? Yes, we need to, because it is where the power and power dynamics is very much dealt with. When coming to social action, the Rachel West says that social action is a collective, is harnessing collective power to bring on a new social change or social changes in the society to leverage social action, social change. So 99% finally respondents believe that organization enhance the thought of collective action to stand together for a better future. Moving on to the next slide. This is a power mapping, a technique that is used by Sharon L. Lane and Susan Prisker in their book Political Social Work, to show that how the power is vested in the respondents or the members of political social work. So for the in-depth study of my research, I have divided my respondents into 4 categories. So one was member but not active participant, member with nominal participation, and member with active participation, and leaders. So when it comes to the power or the ways by which their suggestions or their decisions are heard in the organization, we can see that I have split that among to 5 categories. First one is when a member makes a comment, whether the organization doesn't care what he has told. Second one is taken can get attention. Third one is taken into account. Fourth one is active participant in decision making, and fifth one is decisive decision making power. So on the basis of respondents participation, you have seen that the purple color, which was doesn't care, the attitude of doesn't caring suggestion made by the member, has came down when it comes to the leader. As we travel to the right side from the active member but not active participant to the leader, the purple color has came down and the decisive decision making power has gone up. And on the basis of year 2, the same. So the more the year or the more the power that they have used, more comes the power making capacity of the member. So some of the suggestion. It's time for us to reinvent the curriculum. We know we are dealt with political social work, even though power is an inevitable content of social work. So it's time for us to reinvent our curriculum so that we can add political social work as at least as an elective in our social work curriculum. Next one, colleges should accept students' political organization, and it should act as an independent space to think and act. Council to be put up with political social workers and retired faculties to ensure the rational working of the units. Policies ensuring students' participation in policy making should be one of the prime most political social workers' aim. Another one is policies and laws to protect students and colleges. If you are going to participate in such movements or such activities, there will be irrational overruling from the side of government that we have seen in few further years. It is need to be in a check. So policies should be there. Extensive researches on political social work field. I'm concluding with 2 quotes. One question made by S.C. Bose and another one by Nelson Mandela. If in India students do not take active part in politics, from where are we to recruit our political workers and where are we to train them? So as a college, we are also bound to give them sound learning. Sound learning means that it's in multidisciplinary aspect. So we need to rethink what is our standard on treating or teaching students on political basis or on activities. And Nelson Mandela once said that the youth of the today are the leaders tomorrow. So we are accountable that what we are teaching them. Thank you.
So thank you for the wonderful presentation. So in your presentation, you mentioned the positive impacts in the students for as they are being in the political organization. So during your research, do you find any negative impacts of being in this political organization? If it's, can you mention any of them?
Yes, sure. There has been a negative impact that I came across, but it was the respondents never, only a negligible amount of respondents told that there were negative impacts. Even inside the system, there are discrimination. Caste is one discrimination that I came across, and another respondent of mine said that there is discrimination on the basis of seniority. And another one was there is hatred developed between members of 2 political parties or 2 students' political organization. But that too, only a negligible amount of students or members checked that box. Thank you.
Thank you.
Your presentation was good.
Thank you.
So my question is, how is political social work is different from social work? So we also do the social action, and we also have thought the thing. So what makes us different for the people who is called as political social worker?
Actually, social work, political social work is just a branch in social work. They don't divide it into 2 areas, 2 branches. Like it comes under social work, and those political social workers will be using power and power dynamics, political dynamics, to enhance or to bring a new change in the society. So unknowingly too, we are also using this power dynamics, but we haven't addressed it yet. It is time to address it. That is what my research is being research meant.
Yes, it is one of the field of social work.
Yes, field of social work. Thank you.
Any more question?
So Stanley, my question to you is, like how you said that youth will be leaders in the future, and also you mentioned in one of your suggestions that colleges need to have their own space, political space, especially for students. So I feel like even any social action or protest that happens, students, from irrespective of what course they're doing, it is more emotional than them knowing what the law says in this country. So do you think it is necessary that irrespective of what course, be it school students or college students, that they have to know, like there should be like a particular subject or like a class that will teach them about the law in a more uh, yeah.
Thank you. Very good. Yeah, actually, irrespective of course, that's what I meant. Doesn't mean that only politics department or social work department should take up political activity. I would say that even in politics, opposition plays a major role. So when it comes to college, those student, each and every student in the college, if she or he is willing to take part in politics, they should be given chance, no matter which discipline are they into. So I would say this will be a good practice too, that will make our students political rather than being apolitical, which is indeed a great danger.
Okay, last question, Stanley. So
Yeah.
from Kerala, from neighbor state, could you please compare the politics in like state you're standing now from the state you're coming?
Okay, very good. Um, at, at least for now, I would say that the politics is entirely different. And if at all you are going to take something from your near state Kerala, please make sure that it is always in complements with your indigenous practices and indigenous knowledge of how politics should be is working. So I would say it is nowhere related in a sense. In Kerala, if you see, all those are national parties. We say communism, otherwise Congress, or if it's BJP. So these are the triangular parties over there. And if you come to Tamil Nadu, you see more of Tamil cultural related parties, ADMK, DMK, Vidudal Sirdigal. I don't know whether I'm making it right. So it's more of related to yourselves that done. But both of it is needed. I won't say that even if communist is there, Congress is there, BJP is there, that doesn't mean that it is not related to Kerala. They do have their indigenous practice inside. Only they tame them as this one to make them related to a bigger system. So both of them are good and have merits and demerits in their own way. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Stanley. Thank you. Good presentation. And also this, we believe this is the need of the hour to build student political resilience. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And I would like to thank all the participants for their presentation. And also I thank our faculties for judging the event. Thank you.
Evening. As we all know, we are moving to the last lap of the valedictory function of our National Online Study Conference on Building Resilient Communities, organized by Department of Social Work, Madras Christian College, in collaboration with NABARD and World Vision India. Sorry. Now, with utmost delight and happiness, let me invite Ms. Bernard Fatima, founder and president of the Society for Rural Education and Development, for the valedictory address. Respected ma'am is a grassroots women activist, and she works extensively with international organizations for the cause of the oppressed women. A humble person who had completed her graduation in India, which was followed by her further studies in the University of Chicago and Sussex, and has received a doctorate from the Academy of Ecumenical Indian Theology and the Rashtriya Gaurav Award from the International Friendship Fellowship in New Delhi. Member of Board of Directors, International Movement Against All Forms of Discrimination and Racism, Tokyo, and State Committee member, National Alliance of Women, Navo India, are some of the prestigious positions she had adorned. Last but not the least, respected ma'am, we are so honored and blessed to have you among us. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me to speak with all of you at this very interesting online conference. So sorry that we could not see each other, but only through online. How did you get all this introduction about me? I am so surprised that you have got a lot of information about me. See, I represent an organization, civil society organization, which is a grassroots organization. And it is very much focused with the rural based and with the rural people, especially Dalit, Irilas. You have been talking about non-Irila. So we are also with the community, and also we are working with the street vendors, sex workers, matamas, and with all the working informal, unorganized sectors in the villages, like bullock workers and quarry workers, bricklane makers. There are about 13 communities organized, 13 unorganized sectors in a different forms of their own movements, sangams they call. And also we have promoted 4 state level movements, which is Tamil Nadu Dalit Women's Movement, Tamil Nadu Women's Forum, Women's Coalition for Change, and state association, that is the State Alliance of People's Movement. So these are the movements very independent, and they are really working for their own communities. When there are common problems, they come together, show solidarity with each other. If a sex worker wanted a letter, recommendation to get bail, a farmer will come forward to take her out. This kind of solidarity shown, and solidarities are shown during struggles, various struggles every movement will take up, and these struggles are really strengthen the leadership of. Leadership is very important. Leadership should be very political. And we follow the ideology of Ambedkar, where we educate, organize, and mobilize. Our education is not school education or life education. It is life education. It's a political education where we go to villages with cultural programs and make people to understand the structural problems they are facing in everyday life. And these cultural programs are very participatory. In one village, I just remember a woman, my woman leader, Sensama, she ran into the on top to the stage protesting when there was domestic violence. Role play was played. She went and gave nicely to the man who was beating his wife. This kind of participatory, it's not only on violence, it is on land issue, wages, more wages for the people, and mostly caste rights. Even today, the Dalit communities are fighting to find pathway to the graveyard. So this is, and then it's a democratic associations. They decide, they take up, the women leaders take up the issues to the bureaucrats, to the other stakeholders to settle their problems, how to write petitions, how to meet with the officers and all that. And mobilization is in a larger level, also joining Madras Rubber Factory for the trade union to support them, even though we are very unorganized grassroots level leaders. So support to other people's movements, support to various human rights organizations. So this is how I felt that we are very rural focused and rural centered, people centered, and especially women leadership centered. How do we build a community which is to resist the problems for ages they have been facing, all kinds of problems, survival, no food. And even before COVID, the economic crisis was very bad. We all know about it. So this year, March 8th, International Women's Day, the UN said that the topic given is Women in Leadership, Achieving Equality in COVID-19 post-pandemic society. This is the month of women's history. This is the month of women's equality. We all have to talk about it. So on March 8th, we had a meeting, a big conference. We invited very few because of COVID, but lot of women turned out. And I just want to give you some examples how our women are reacting to their situations. March 8th, we honored Radha. Radha is from Arundhatiya community. I have to mention it. It's a part of the subcaste of Dalit community. Radha was a very good leader. She attended all our meetings. She was involved in taking up her community issues. When there was drinking water stopped in her village, she protested, took women from her community to the bureaucrats and got the water back. It is stopped by the landlords. They wanted to get more water and stopping the water to the leads. And recently, she did a very big protest that the landlord built a compound wall on their way. They are not able to reach the main road because of the wall built. For any emergency, they cannot have an auto or any vehicle coming into that part of the village. If you know the village communities, they are divided into different parts. One part, which is very good and it is very well organized with roads, water, lights, where they live the dominant caste. The other side are the scheduled castes. And within that, OBCs are there. Arundhatis are there. So it's so divided. And she has protested and got the officers come and they did a survey. They really destroyed the compound wall against the landlords, which nowhere this happens. Now they have a proper road. I am very happy about Radha because she was taking up her own village issue with her leadership and then bringing solution to her community. This is the kind of political action that the women are doing today. And Siron Mani is also another woman. She is from the Dalit community also. She petitioned to the government in 2009. Her petitions were not recognized, accepted, but she went on and on and on, taking women by protest. And that is the political action she made. Finally, last year, they could find her petition because of the officers were transferred. Now, she was able to get house plots for 53 Dalit women in her village. Isn't this a wonderful thing that you cannot find? Now, it is courageous women we can build up. It is courageous because of our involving them. It is a kind of a mobilization. It is a kind of a protest. And it is there already. We don't have to say capacity building and all that. Our women are militant. Opportunities are not given to them. If you give them opportunity, if you stand by them, they are more than any chief ministers or more than any prime ministers who are not bothered about the grassroots people, not about that. See, I am living in the village. For 1 week, there is no water. We have to buy water and there is no electricity. We have to use a lot of other things. So nobody is bothered about the lives of the poor, especially Dalits, Irlas, and the other sex workers and all these people. Why I am saying this? Shakila, another brave woman, she took 80 women to her from her village to the land which was illegally occupied by dominant caste. She reclaimed 18 acres of land on the main road and started squatting on the land. It is like the Latin American farmers, chapas. She claimed the land now for all the 80 women. And then they are initiating collective farming. This collective farming is collective action, which is a political action. And now they have a lot of challenges from the bureaucrats. They have a lot of challenges also from the neighbors, the landlords, their own men. So the 80 Dalit women, now they own 18 acres of land, dry land, where we help them to have water, irrigation. We help them to train them in tractor driving, and also we try to get them millets. So they are growing millets. All the women come together after the MGNREGA work. They work on the land. It is their land, and whatever they cultivate, they divide among themselves. They share it equally, and they feel proud because they say, this is not wages. This is what we cultivated from our land. That is the dignity. That is the proud of these women. So land reform is very important. That is what Ambedkar also saying, that the seed, what he's saying is, the seed for annihilation of caste is land reform. You make Dalit women, Irregular women, and women, the only skill they have is agriculture. It is not the globalization process that helps them, because you need skill. You need to work in special economic zones. You have to work in glass factory, and they have taken away the land, the natural resources from our people, and drew them out of their land, out of their work, displaced them. And now we have very strong women leadership, women's group coming up. In every village, we have women leaders. They don't bother about what's happening. They just go petition and get the things done. COVID-19 had created very bad impact on Dalit and Irregular women, as you have been saying. A Matama woman, she's Renuka, she was about to commit suicide because there was nothing to eat. I saw some of your studies, your research. COVID is something very dangerous. COVID is continuing for another 3 years, it's going to be. And most of our women have nothing to eat. No work, they can't move to other places. It's only the rice that is given. Chandrama, our leader from tribal movement, the Irilas movement, she said, she's challenging the government. You are giving only rice. How can I eat rice without salt? How can I eat rice without spices? She's saying, I am catching rabbits. I am catching white rats. I am catching udumbu, the monitor lizard, which is very dangerous to catch. I am hunting the pigs, wild pigs. But who is buying? Nobody is buying. I can catch fish, crab. This is so well skillful in doing all this. A very good labor she has got. But there is no one to buy it from her. Even she goes to sell firewood. She goes to Bricklin, where they make bricks for construction. See, very well talented woman like her. There is a very bad mindset among the people. They are not allowing Chandrama to enter their streets of the dominant caste. They say the Irilas are carrying the virus of corona. They are such a bad mindset. How can they claim? I see our community people are stronger. In my village, no corona. In Chandrama village, no corona. They are very strong because of the diet. They are not eating fast food, or they are not going to the cities, or all that infectious areas. They are very strong women. Why I'm trying to say is, it is food insecurity. Our FCI godowns have 100 million tons of rice and wheat, and they are giving that for ethanol making, but not giving more rice to our poor women. We want the government. Chandrama today demands 5,000 rupees every month the government should pay me, because she has contributed to the development of the community, to the government, to the state, to the whole nation. Why the governments are not recognizing? we have to see that our women have more money in their hands. And now food insecurity, just I read that the India, our government, is ranking 94 among 107 countries in global hunger index. Very shameful this is. Whereas our prime minister has bought flight, aeroplane for $8,495. How many crores it is? Where is the people's money going into? Why do they spend so much on this? Where our poor people are dying, hunger death, and suicide. Where is the answer for all this? Very low income, unemployment, suicide, farmer suicide. More than 400,000 farmers committed suicide within 2 decades. And nobody is questioning that. And the women, our women, they contribute, they are cultivators, producers of food. But till today, no language has a special word for women farmers. Only farmers means the middle-aged man with 50 years old. A man only named as farmer. There is no language calls woman as a farmer. I feel that our women are skillful in agriculture and our women have ability to do everything, but only 8% of our women have very little land, small farmers. Today, the protest is going on, farmers' protest. Only thing they're asking is minimum support price, MSP, for their produce. They are asking 100% we are spending on the land. Plus 50% we need profit. That will help us. And they want mandis nearby, the Sunday nearby, so that the woman small farmers could go and sell her product. And how are we going to see that the poor village women farmers get benefited and survive in this context? As Ambedkar was saying that we need agrarian reform. Our government should distribute land to people, especially to the marginalized, to the vulnerable groups, and cooperative farming. That is what we try to do. Collective farming in 5 districts, where women produce vegetables, millets. And he's also said 100 years ago, government should distribute land, provide input, water, manure, free. There is the way for gender equality and to see that caste hierarchy, class division will be destroyed. So I also want students, all of you, to question Niti Ayog, which is now proposed, saying that there should be a cut in food subsidy. If food subsidy is cut from 75% to rural, 50% to the urban, now they are going to cut 60 to rural and 40 to urban. What will happen? Who is going to benefit? What are you going to save this money for whom? For whose benefits we are working on? Food is very important, and food should be given and see that people survive with that. And we have to build strong leadership among women, especially because I committed myself and we work for women. Women farmers, we need really to control the seeds on their own. Now we have a seed bill coming where you cannot have your own seeds. And also women, the dairy farm is taken out of her control. It is all because of the agreements our government has made with World Trade Organizations. And it was in Regional Coordination of Comprehensive Economic Program, RCEP. We have been fighting and fighting. And our women, Dalit women, Matamas, sex workers, have traveled all over. They have gone to Asian countries. They have attended national commerce movement. They have gone to Rome, FAO meetings, protesting, saying that land is important. We have to create women leadership and see that women have assets. At present, in the COVID situation, more rice and wheat and other things should be distributed to women, and land reform should be given importance, and all our landless women should fight and get the land together. And we are struggling. Without struggle, nothing moves. I want all of you to support, come and visit our village. If you are not in the village, if you are not for the villages, if you don't feel that you are one among them, you cannot really see the community built, and very strong communities we need. And we have very strong communities. We have youth, children, elders, all with us. In COVID, we have been able to support 10,000 families in this area with all kinds of support. But we still continue to support. See that no one suffers without food. In this area, there should not be any hunger deaths. So we need more people to join us and support the people's movement. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am, for really inspiring and giving a fire to us. Moving on, let me now invite dear and respected Dr. Prince Anadure, conference convener of Bureco 2021, to address the gathering and deliver the concluding remarks for the conference. Before handing over the platform, a bird's eye view to his accomplishments. Dr. Anadure is the assistant professor of Department of Social Work, Madras Christian College, and he was also the Dean of Student Affairs at the Madras Christian College from the years 2017 to 2019. Public health, social work research, environmental social work, community organization, family and child welfare social work are his area of expertise. Being a visiting faculty in various national and international institutions, he extends his benevolent services to the people in need. Now let's listen to his words. Over to you, sir.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Nainan, for your wonderful introduction. We've been conducting this national study conference from the year 1989, from the very inception of the Department of Social Work. But for 1 or 2 years, we've been running this national level study conferences. We've been one of the forerunners in the country in running this national level study conferences. We had stalwarts like Justice Krishna Iyer, Medha Patkar, Sainath, Beswada Wilson, Teesta Setalwat, Henry Tiffane, Krishnamal Jagannathan, she was the Padma Bhushan awardee, Anand Teltumde. We have had with us Dr. Binayak Sen, and even today we had such a wonderful and eminent speaker and activist, Mrs. Fatima Bernard. So the plethora of great resource persons what we had in our earlier study conferences will prove that how we've been organizing it with a focus on human rights and imparting human rights education across the country by organizing such conferences. It's a student-run conference. So the idea is conceived, developed, implemented, evaluated by the students, for the students, and of the students. Thereby, the social work students of Madras Christian College, they learn many skills like organizing, coordinating, communication, leadership. So as a department, as faculty, we are very happy and we are really delighted to give such opportunities to our students. To talk about this conference itself is an example for building resilience. There were some times we've been thinking whether this conference will take up or not. We used to have the conference in the month of October, November, commemorating the inception of a Department of Social Work. Due to lockdown, we were not able to conduct this conference in the year 2020. So even in curriculum is based on, right? The field work, the practicum, the clubs, several club activities of our students, how students themselves presented the various activities of their human rights campaign clubs. So these are in college. So these are some of the take-home message I wanted to dwell upon. Fine. And why this resilience is important? We all know that the recent surges in the COVID-19 cases. How things are going to happen, we really do not know. So it is important for us to develop our own resilience to deal with uncertainties which we are going to face in the days to come. As an individual, as an institution, as a community, so we need to build our own resilience. So with these few words, I congratulate and I greet all the students, those who participated, actively organized and participated in this wonderful conference. We usually will announce the dates of the title and dates of the next conference. Due to this resilient model, we are going to postpone it and we'll come out with more brainstorming and we'll be announcing the dates and the title of the. I'm also learning this digital resilience. One of the speaker, Dr. Barnali, she was talking about this digital resilience. Even as a conference organizers, I had gone through many such resilience, while I was organizing this conference, preparing this conference along with my students, because I was holding, three important posts: teaching in our department, CEOs, warden. Okay, so really successful in holding this position as conference organizer, so this resilient conference, that also definitely built resilient in myself. Okay, so with this few words, I really thank all the organizers. Hope to see you participants and others in the next conference also. Now it's time to announce the results for post presentation and presentation. For the post presentation, the winners are, the second prize goes to Shama Sharin of Madras School of Social Work.
Chengalpet Nabat, and Dr. James Neil Sahayam, Technical Head, World Vision India, and Mr. Daniel Asirvadam, Livelihood Specialist, World Vision India, for their continued support all throughout this conference. I also thank the speakers and panelists of the two-day national conference. And I would also like to thank the Principal and Secretary, Dr. P. Wilson, Madras Christian College, for helping us to conduct this conference successfully. Dr. Miriam Samuel, Head of the Department, Social Work, our conference coordinator, Dr. Prince Annadurai, our Seva Staff Advisor, Dr. Sudarshan, and our professor and the Dean of Student Affairs, Dr. Prince Solomon, for their continuous guidance and support. I thank all the committee members, especially the technical committee, as well as the student volunteers who helped us in the conduct of this conference in spite of their busy academic works. Last but not the least, I would like to thank my fellow cabinet members, my chairperson, Ms. Ruth Dorcas, my treasurer, Mr. Ananya, and the joint secretary, Ms. Archana, for their continuous support all throughout the program. Above all, I thank the God Almighty for His blessings throughout this conference. Thank you and have a great evening. Burden on their shoulder. Limited support, I would say. So I think both of them very much. And even for all the possible ways that you also.
Thank you, Karthik. Starting from where he left, I would like to extend our heartfelt gratitude to Mr. Karthik, without whom this event might have still be an unachieved dream. On behalf of all the faculties and the students who are gathered here, thank you, Mr. Karthik, once again. As the curtain falls, let's keep this in our mind. This might be the tiring times. This might be the desperate times. Again, this is our time to put up our fight to fly and overcome the hurdles that drag us down. As Angela Duckworth opines, enthusiasm is common, but endurance is rare. Let's keep our heads high and hearts together to grow into a fruitful tree that which its resilience cut through the hard soil above it. Let's ignite the light of resilience and energize the resilient in us to emerge as the sun that drives the world, remembers the world about the passion and love of service to the last and the least. Hard times may come, desperate measures might demand, yet the resilient soul survives to continue its journey of life. This might be the ending of a conference, but let this be the beginning of a new comeback that help us to rejoin and reunite. Let's rise up to sing the department song, Go Like the World.
ஆர்வத்துல கேமரா ஆன் பண்ணிட்டேன்.
எல்லாரும் போயிடுவாங்க. பார்ட்டிசிபென்ட்ஸை கட் பண்ணி
அதுக்கு சரி எல்லாரும் கட் பண்ணுங்க.
In every soul, some rising early, some dark and cold. There is a spirit who brings the fire, ignites the candle, and makes us carry your candles, run to the darkness, seek out the hopeless, confused and torn. Hold out your candle for all to see. Take your candle, go light your world. Take your candle, go light your world. Frustrated brother, see how he's trying to light his own candle some other way. See how your sister, she's strong and light too, still holds a candle without a flame. Carry your candle, run to the darkness, seek out the hopeless, confused and torn. Hold out your candle for all to see. Take your candle, go light your world. Take your candle, light your world. We are a family whose hearts are blazing. Let's raise our candles, light up the sky. To our Father, in the name of Jesus, make us the beacon in the darkest night. Carry your candle, run to the darkness, seek out the hopeless, confused and torn. Hold out your candle for all to see. Take your candle, go light your world. Take your candle, go light your world.
Before we leave, I want to remind you once again the quote by ancient Accord. Enthusiasm is common, but endurance is rare. Thank you. Have a great time ahead until we meet next year. This is MCC SWD Bureau 2021 signing off. Thank you.